All right, so it's telling me we are live, which is the best signal because it means that everything's working on the internet and there's no mishaps. But I am so excited to be here tonight, guys. We're talking about a film that came out over a year ago. It just celebrated its 1 year anniversary a couple weeks ago, and we're here to talk about Spider-Man Far From Home. This was the last MCU film we got. So this is the second longest gap that we've gotten between MCU movies. I think phase one, The Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2 was like 23 months. So we're all a little MCU weary right now in regards to wanting to get some more, get back into that universe, whether it be movies or shows. But we're going to talk about this film, Peter Parker, Mysterio, all the wonderful characters we got in this film. And I couldn't do it by myself. I had to bring some Avengers with me tonight to watch this film. And we're going to introduce them here in a little bit. But before we dive into it, make sure if you haven't already, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Really helps out the channel, but also really appreciate it if you haven't already. Subscribe to this channel and make sure you guys are in the comment section letting us know your favorite moments of the MCU, your favorite Spider-Man, and we're going to have a lot of fun discussions. So definitely make sure you're in the comments having a good conversation because it's going to be a fun night, guys. So all that being said and out of the way, I'm going to bring in my guests, my Avengers, kind of one by one, starting off with someone who's been on this channel before. We've had a lot of collaborations. I love his takes on film. He also has a great YouTube channel as well as an Instagram, has his own website, has a live show. He goes live every Tuesday talking about the latest and greatest in movie and TV news. I'm speaking about no other than Joe from Guy at the Movies. How are we doing tonight, Joe?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me. Very happy to be here to watch. It's been quite a while since I saw this film, so I'm pumped to pull it back up.
Awesome, and I'm so glad you were able to join us tonight. And if you want to tell the people that aren't too familiar with your channel, man, what is it all about? Where can they find you and all that fun stuff, man? The stage is yours.
Yeah, so a lot going on over at Guy at the Movies, but it's Guy at the Movies on Instagram, daily movie reviews and movie news. But in addition to that, the guyatthemovies.com website is your first shot or your main place for all the movie news, updated as it comes. It's really funny right now. We get some days where it's really crazy with news and then other days where we don't really have anything going on. And weekends are pretty dead, but we try to make sure that it's updated with the latest movie news. And then each week we discuss the top stories of the week on the Guy at the Movies live stream, which is at 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday nights. And that is the actual live recording for the Guy at the Movies podcast, which is released on all platforms on Wednesday mornings. So a lot of other little things come in that I'll plug at the end. But the biggest one right now is just being here for this awesome watch along with a good crew that Elliot's put together. So looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So glad you can be here tonight, Joe. And I'm excited to hear your takes on this version of Spider-Man, MCU, and all that fun stuff. So very excited to have you on tonight. The next guy has been a YouTube friend of mine over the last 2 years, and we've become really close friends. We host a weekly movie and TV news show on his channel every Sunday at 12 p.m. Central Time. He talks movies. He collects a lot of movies. He does like DVD hunting. Great guy. He's a DJ too. Got a great taste in music. I'm talking about the guy representing the West Coast tonight, and that's David from Flicks Talk. How we doing, man?
Hey, wiki. Yeah, no, it's no DJing going on recently because of the COVID, unfortunately. So everything has shut down. So I've just been trying to focus all my energy, guys, on this YouTube thing. Like Elliot had said, we've been doing this for a couple of years now. We're getting really serious with it. I am a collector. You guys can see part of my collection in the back, but I like to do a lot of vlogs out and about on my channel, just kind of hunting as much as you can, whether it be in thrift stores, Dollar Trees, a lot of good deals out there. So I kind of show you a deep dive into what you guys can get for a good deal. That's what I like to do, is get a good deal, especially, physical or movies that I haven't seen that you guys like to recommend. I'll watch on my channel, or some of the new streaming ones. I have a review for The Old Guard, the one starring Charlize Theron, later up today on the channel. So you guys can look forward to that, as well as what Elliot said for every week, guys. Every Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we are doing a live weekly wrap up of just TV and movie news. So I'm excited for that. I think our next one tomorrow will be the third live show that we've been doing. And it's supposed to be a big one, guys. So stay tuned for that. And all the links are down below.
Definitely, man. So glad you can make it tonight with us, David.
course.
All right, so this guy is new to the channel, but I've been a fan of his for a little bit now. Great takes on movie, incredible sense of humor, great taste in films, and it really breaks it down. We're talking about Chris from Tay's Take. What's going on tonight, my man?
Yo, what up?
What's up, man? I'm glad you can join us tonight, man. If you want to tell the people, man, I see you rocking the Spidey shirt tonight. But yeah, man, if you want to, Miles Morales, if you want to tell the people about your channel, what where they can find you and all that fun stuff, man, the stage is yours.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big Miles Morales fan. I did Miles Morales for Halloween of last year, and I hope that Halloween is not canceled this year, so I could try to top that. But basically, my channel is relatively new. I started in January of this year on YouTube, but I was doing Instagram movie reviews since April of 2018, and I was doing them on the Instagram stories. And obviously those things kind of go away after 24 hours. So I was like, I need to do a better job of making these stick around and getting a bigger audience, because YouTube's a search engine. So I'm really excited to be in this journey. I'm about 6 months into the movie review YouTube channel, and my movie review channels is really for like the, should I watch this movie crowd? And, if you have watched a movie that I'm reviewing, I try to give you a lot of good background so that you are at least learning something, kind of like a director's cut, quick short form videos. And, I just, really been excited to be on this journey. And I've been a fan of Elliot since I joined the YouTube community. So super excited that a few months later I could be on this panel. And the fellows that I'm collaborating with on this panel, I'm new to a lot of their channels, but just excited to grow. And this is really the name of the game of YouTube, is this kind of collaboration. So if you guys are into those kind of reviews, I'm at Tate's Take. You can see the name right in the description there, and I know E's got it linked into this video. So I would appreciate a follow if you're into that kind of stuff, and just really excited because my favorite type of movies are Marvel movies. So I was jumping all over this when E put it out. So just happy to be here.
No doubt, man. You said, I couldn't have said it better myself, man. It's all about collaboration and having people gravitate to each other's channel and support each other. So, man, I'm glad you're able to join us tonight, and I'm excited to hear your take on the many different conversations I'm going to have tonight about Spider-Man and Miles Morales as well, because he's my guy as well. So, speaking of my guy, Leo, this guy here, man, has such great energy. He has his own lives he does on a weekly basis with him and a great panel of people. He talks movies. He talks a lot of geeky stuff, which I love, including anime, which I'm going to have to get on anime one of these days. But I'm speaking of no other than Leo from Geeky Goods, man. How we doing, Leo?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? First and foremost, I just want to say I'm grateful to be here with you all. I love all your channels. I've checked out all your content, and I'm really grateful to be here with the panel. I love Spider-Man, especially Miles Morales. I was actually training up to be Miles Morales for this year's Comic-Con, which unfortunately it's not going to happen. But guys, I'm really grateful to be here. Head on over to Geekly Goods. We do all kinds of stuff, anime. I even do some food reviews, movie reviews, just kind of everything under the sun that's nerdy. I do just about everything, guys. And then every single Sunday, we do a live stream doing the latest in movies and TV, and try to squeeze in a little bit of gaming, a little bit of anime in there too. But we just cover everything under the sun. So come check us out over at youtube.com/geeklygoods for regular streams. And I also just started a new stream recently where we do live trailer reactions. Me and Minute Movie Pop do live trailer reactions. So come on, check us out, guys. And let's talk some geek, y'all, because that's what it's all about, right?
Yes, sir, man. I mean, I remember growing up, the word geek had a certain, meaning to it, but now it's just like we're all embracing it, right? So if you're not on part of this bandwagon, you're the geek now, right? So it's funny how things kind of change. But yeah, that new stream that you and Stephanie are doing is incredible, man. I love the ones you guys reacted to the Halloween Kills, which I'm so disappointed that got delayed to last year into next year. But yeah, man, Leo has a lot of great content, guys. So definitely check him out and show him some support. So last but certainly not least, this is a very special guest because I didn't think I was going to be able to get Spider-Man on this actual panel. And when we got Peter Parker in the building, guys, but his alter ego, he goes by Big J on YOLO Movie Reviews on Instagram. He was one of the people I kind of got inspired to do more collaborations because he does a lot of great stuff on Instagram, group events, just a great guy. Him and his daughter have their channel, and just overall a wealth of knowledge when it comes to film. So, but he is Spider-Man tonight. So that's who we're going to refer to. I'm talking about no other than Big J. What's going on, man?
Hi there. How you guys doing? So yeah, I came dressed up today. So yeah, we do an Instagram. Me and my daughter. We started about 2 years ago. The objective was very simple. We wanted to have something to do together because we're living in different countries, and movies is the thing that always connected us since she was like a baby. I used to just put her next to me and watch movies while I was like babysitting. So we started this Instagram, and we just like share our opinions because it's really funny to see opinions of her watching movies that all of us probably watch, being such like movie lovers, but she's watching for the first time now movies like Nightcrawler, Seven, I don't know, Top Gun. She's just watching all these new movies, and we're sharing her opinion, and then we do reviews of movies that just came out. We do lists, we do everything. And like we already talked about, is we love doing collaborations. I think this is the cool thing about Instagram and all of these platforms, is we finally have enough people to talk movies, and not just our friends that are sick and tired of us. We can find people with the same love that we do. So that's why we're trying to do this.
Yeah, man, and you guys do a great job at it, man. And I love the mask, man. I'm loving it, Big J. But ladies and gentlemen, it is 7-11, lucky number 7-11. We're gonna get this started in about, let's say 5 or 7 minutes. So definitely queue up your movies here, whether it be your physical copies, your digital copies, streaming services, and all that fun stuff. Get your snacks, bring out your spiders, whatever you got to do to get ready for it. We're gonna get it started in a little bit, but kind of breaking the ice, starting roundtable style with Joe. Kind of what's your introduction to Spider-Man, man, in regards to this character's been around since I want to say 1962 was his first appearance, created by the incredible Stan Lee and the incredible Stan Ditko. Were you introduced to Spider-Man via the comics, the animated series, the movies, the games? What's the introduction, starting with Joe?
Yeah, I think it may have been cartoons, actually, the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon. That's kind of my earliest memory.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like I think I was that prime teenage age when the Tobey Maguire movies were starting to be pumped out. Mm-hmm. And I was really, I liked them. Like, of course, there are different degrees of how good they are, but and quality. But yeah, definitely. I'm a fan. I think I was Spider-Man for Halloween one year. I don't know. I was a Ninja Turtle for like 6 years in a row. So I think I may have snuck Spider-Man in there somewhere. But I'm a fan of what they're doing with bringing, and we'll talk about this, but bringing it back to, him being essentially a kid, and how they've been able to really hone in on that in these two movies that we've seen, and plus his other appearances. So
no doubt. Anime, that was one of my favorites. That and X-Men were like every Saturday I was tuning into those every week. So definitely know where you're coming from there. But yeah, David, same question to you, man. Introduction to your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, I kind of do vaguely remember the animated series. I mean, I was watching X-Men as well, but shimmied in there was the animated series, I believe. But once again, going back to the Tobey Maguire movies, early 2000s. I mean, I was in high school, and I think that's when we first got introduced to that, because it was just so cool, right? Just seeing these, like, the birth of like these superhero movies, and whether they were good or bad. I mean, we were all at the theaters or trying to get to the VHS. We were renting movies back then, so trying to get those copies. And just watch them with our friends at sleepovers, or just gathering up at birthday parties, whatever was going on. Like, we were trying to watch those movies. And I don't remember if I like collected like the toys or anything. I knew I collected a crap ton of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and like X-Men. Like, so it was all around that time, but I'm sure I had some Spider-Man in there. But once again, it was something that I grew to love like a little later down the line. You know what I mean? Yeah. And Tom Holland, I mean, we'll go over, my favorite Spideys, but Tom Holland, man, is the guy right now.
He is the guy. I mean, Hollywood wants him in everything, Uncharted, obviously there's the rumblings of a Back to the Future remake, and people want him to be Marty. So, I mean, he's a great actor. I mean, I remember seeing him in, it was a film with him and Ewan McGregor and Naomi Watts. I can't think of the name of it right now. It was like the
Tsunami one.
The Tsunami one. Yeah, he was so great in that as a little kid. You knew he had talent in him. So, but I mean, Big J, man, same question to you, man. Comics, anime series, video games, movies. What was it that really kind of caught your eye or gravitated to Spider-Man?
Okay, so now you're gonna start seeing my age, because it's like the comics. Like, I collected all the comics. I even watched that TV show that people make fun on YouTube that he used to throw a net. Don't know if you guys ever checked it out, but it's funny as hell. But it was kind of like the Batman show, and when he was going up the walls, he was just like the set turned around. So yeah, but I was a big like comic fan. I had thousands of comics. I still do. Still hoping one day I'll find one that's worth $1 million there in the middle. Like
nice.
every year or so, I just go and look there. Like, see, no, it's still not there. But yeah, like comic books, I was a big fan of comic books, and it took ages for me until I saw a good version of Spider-Man on screen, and that was Tobey Maguire. Like the movies at that time, we never had anything like that, so it was completely blew my mind. And even having Tobey Maguire, that he was kind of like 40 and he was in high school, but I just didn't care. That was the best I was gonna get, and I was happy. So, but yeah, comic books was like my thing. So it's funny now how I'm seeing these stories that I read like so many times ago, and characters that I thought, like Mysterio was one that I always thought, how the hell are you gonna bring this guy with a bowl of like a fishbowl on his head? Yeah, like, and I always thought I'm never gonna see it, and now everything is happening. But yeah, comic books was my first thing.
Awesome, man. I love the stories of how we all connect to Spider-Man. And Leo, man, same with you, my friend, regarding your introduction to Spider-Man. And then I guess just to kind of put another spin to the question, what is it about Spider-Man that connects with you, man?
Well, first and foremost, I just got to say Spider-Man is my favorite superhero ever. Rewinding the clock back to about 1998 when I first caught eyes on that Spider-Man animated series that came out in 94, I was hooked. Instantly loved the character. I loved him, Venom, Carnage. I was a big fan of just the lore of Spider-Man, how he got the power, everything about him. And I really liked that he was like more of a street level fighter. So I wanted to know more. And I got lucky and had some friends at school that introduced me to the Amazing Spider-Man comics. Ever since, I've been collecting them. And once the 2002 movie came out, oh my God, I melted in excitement. I mean, I have loved just about every single Spider-Man movie since. I've been watching and playing just about every video game since. And I love the character so much. What I love about him is that he's a lot more grounded than a lot of the other superheroes that we know and came up with. I mean, like Superman is just impossible to beat. But what was so cool about Spider-Man is that you feel like you are Spider-Man. And I love that little animation down in the corner over on Big J's screen.
That just creeped me out.
I've always loved everything Spider-Man though. So pleasure to be here.
Man. No, I love these personal stories of how we all connect to them. And the same for you, Chris, regarding the introduction to Spider-Man and kind of what resonates with you with this character that's been around since the 60s.
Yeah, for sure. I think me and David would probably grew up in the same Spider-Verse because his stories seem just like how mine is, from the Turtles to the Rangers to the Marvel Universe. And I think I jumped on Spider-Man from the animated series for sure. But at that time, I loved that show, but I liked X-Men more. So X-Men was my first like real love for Marvel, and Spider-Man was just like, oh, y'all in the same crew, got it, I get it, I'm with all that. So I think that was huge for me. I think that, you know, him being, obviously I'm in New York City. I don't know if everyone said like their city or never. I'm in New York City, so like the fact that he was like a city kid, like that made it more like real too. And the movies too, and like all the movies, I agree with Leo. I think all the movies are great. I mean, maybe not the second Amazing Spider-Man, but we'll get into that later. But that was really Jamie Foxx's fault. That wasn't Andrew's fault. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. But the point is that I'm one of the bigger Marvel fans that has never read a comic book. I just been fascinated by the cartoon series and the movies and the MCU and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my Spider-Man story.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of what, you know, Marvel Comics has done and Marvel Studios Entertainment. Everyone has their medium that they can really gravitate to, whether it be the comics or the movies or the anime or, you know, the video games. So it really kind of speaks to, again, this the creation of these incredible characters that we love. So we're going to get this started here in a bit. I don't want to neglect the chat because we got people in here that's been waiting since like 4:40. Personally, I love this Spider-Man. Yeah, we're gonna talk about this particular version of Spider-Man for sure. This is my third favorite Spider-Man movie behind Spider-Man. Oh, we'll definitely get into everyone's rankings. David, like I said, another person that's been waiting since we got this started. Thank you for joining in tonight. And he's just been waiting patiently, asking about a time stone, if we can get the time stone from Doctor Strange to get this started. So looks like his favorite Spider-Man is Tom Holland. Okay. And all right, let me just scroll through some more of these and we'll go ahead and get this started in just a little bit, everybody. Luke wasn't able to stay that long because I know it's like probably 4 a.m. where he is, but I appreciate you saying hi, Luke. Really do. Thank you. And then David, again, early bird gets the worm. Thank you for the super chat, David. We really appreciate that. If you guys want to, everyone in the chat, you don't have to, but super chats are open as well as streamlabs.com/moviefiles. But the best thing to do for this channel and everyone on this channel in this panel is subscribe to our channel, show us some support, give this video a thumbs up. That means a lot. So definitely appreciate that, David. Thank you so much. This is just talking about the time stone here. So we're all getting ready. David, Robert got his 4K ready. I wouldn't expect anything less from that man with his incredible 4K collection. Got the Criterion, Bruce Lee. That's awesome. Came in early. All right. So pretty much caught up with the chat, and we'll get some more people in. We'll say hi to everyone that's in the chat now. But if you guys are ready, we can get this bad boy started. So I am ready to go. I'm going to bring up a clock here for everyone to kind of know where we are. And when we get periodically, I'll bring it up to the stream. So let me pull this up here. There we go. And all right. So I'm going to do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to say go, and then we can all press play. So with that being said, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pressing play, go. All righty.
And we're off.
Right. Here we go. All right. So again, I'm gonna have this clock pop up periodically. So for those that are coming into the stream randomly or watching the replay, you'll know where we're at. So we're just kicking this bad boy off. So we are ready to go. Put this down here. All righty. So yeah, I think we talked a little bit off camera, starting with Joe. But if you said this was your first time rewatching since the theater, since last year, right, Joe?
Yeah, it definitely is. And I remember, going into the theater, I was pumped. I mentioned to Elliot earlier, I'm a big Jake Gyllenhaal fan, and I was excited to see Mysterio as well. And I think Jake Gyllenhaal I think he always knocks it out of the park with whatever role he takes. So I was pumped to see him in the MCU.
Yeah.
So I remember liking it a lot. I'm hoping it holds up on rewatch.
Yeah, same here. David, what about you, man? Is this your first, second, third, fourth?
Surprisingly, this is my second, because I know we had talked about this before. I mean, even though I love Spider-Man, he's not one of my favorites. I mean, we went over, the tops and stuff like that, at least for me. But these are the movies they're just fun movies overall. And I think with the addition of Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, fantastic performance. I was just like, they nailed it. I mean, like what Big J said, I mean, how are you going to nail something with a fish bowl on his head, right? I mean,
yeah.
And it seemed like the technology for what it is, which we're seeing, is there right now. Mm-hmm. So I think it was the perfect time to implement that, like in the last couple of years, the technology. And once again, this is my second time seeing this since the theaters, and I'm just really excited to see this once again, because I remember just really liking it in theaters. So
yeah,
now I'm getting like the nostalgia of being in a theater. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
I don't even bring that up right now. The T word. I don't know when we'll be. I mean, I know some people are actually going to the theater, and because not all states are. The degree of the pandemic is definitely different from state to state. But I'm missing the theater myself. But
I thought that was a great open up right there too.
It is, man. Again, you mentioned it. The introduction to Mysterio. I love how Marvel. I mean, one of the things that I love about Marvel, and it's just so funny, is like the lack of identity for these characters, the superheroes and villains. Like, everyone knows who everyone is, except for Spider-Man, which we'll obviously talk about it with this film. But I just love how immediately we see his, Jake Gyllenhaal's beautiful face, superhero or super villain and megastar. But yeah, Big J, man, how many times have you seen this film?
So yeah, I saw it when it came out. I saw it with my daughter because I usually fly over to watch it with her, all the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And then I came back to Portugal and I watched it in IMAX, because next to where she was, there was no IMAX. So I watched it like 2 times, very, very close to each other. But yeah, remember, I liked it. I liked it. There's a few things that I have problems with this Spider-Man, but that's another story. But yeah, but I think in general I liked it. I love this start, like how they doing this introduction, and you see like watermarks on it and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like just the best possible way to explain how these kids are all coming back. I thought it was brilliant. Like they just did it. It's so good.
It's the same question to you, Leo, in regards to how many times you've seen it, but it's just one of those things too with Marvel. They've hit the mark, right? They have their formulaic without a doubt, but they know how to play with comedy well, right? And we get to meet these supporting characters that we met in the first Homecoming. We're getting this is a great way of like exposition, right? We're seeing how the blip, how they're coming back and how it affected them. I just love how Marvel again, Kevin Feige has a map and he lets Jon Watts, and we'll talk about him in a bit, tell his story, but I just love the mixture of comedy and the coming of ageness that we get, and then the funniness of this. But yeah, Leo, man, same question to you, man, in regards to how many times you've got a chance to see this film.
I wish I've seen it more, man, but this is my first time since the theater seeing this, and I honestly, it's a pleasure to watch it again, because I just remember the first time being in the theater, not only being wildly impressed with Mysterio, but also impressed with the CG of this movie. I mean, that scene where he pulls Spider-Man into the construction site and all these different illusions hit him one after one was absolutely incredible to see. And you guys brought up a really good point. Marvel has a way of making their intros quick, but also concise. And I love how they actually talk about the event. Like it wasn't just kind of like a one and done, like everybody knows about it. It's the blip. It's kind of like what's happening now. Everybody knows about the coronavirus. Nobody's walking around in this movie like it didn't happen. So I love that about Marvel, and not to mention always tying in that Spider-Man thing. They always rope it in there, and they just have a beautiful orchestral arrangement in this movie that just hits home, man. And I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think he's my favorite combination of both Spider-Man and Peter Parker. So it's always a pleasure to see him on screen. Really looking forward to him in he's gonna be in a movie with Daisy Ridley as well, some kind of sci-fi movie I've been following.
Walking Chaos.
I'm interested in that one too. It doesn't sound like it's really got any legs right now, but I've been interested in that since like 2018.
Doug Liman's been trying to get this film. I think it's been shot, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what's going on with it, but again, Tom Holland is definitely a hot commodity right now in Hollywood. But same question to you, Chris. I'm just looking at the background. I'm loving that the Iron Man stuff in the background. I don't know if there's a Captain Marvel in the background too, but I love the work. Like this film and the MCU embraces the MCU, right? It's not like certain other, which I'm a big fan of DC, as Joe know, and I know Joe, you're a big DC fan as well, but not acknowledging that we live in this world of superheroes. But I love that at this point in Marvel, it's just like, I know Iron Man. I saw him flying and saving a cat from the tree. But Chris, man, same question for you, man, in regards to how many times you got a chance to see this, and again, just talking a little bit about the formula that Marvel has seemed to kind of master.
Yeah, for sure. This is not my first time seeing it since the theater, and I remember loving it from the theater. And the two things that I think of when I think of this movie is, number one, like this is the first movie after Endgame, so I was kind of like, where do we even go? Because I was kind of like depressed after Endgame, not because what happened more so, but like I don't know that in my life I will have a movie moment like that, and I pray that I do. I don't know how that, maybe the X-Men crossover or whatever, but I felt that a lot. So then going to this movie, I'm like, okay, there's so much pressure to be following that type of a 1-2 punch in Infinity War and Endgame. So I was super impressed with that. I thought, and like being like a fan of comedy, and like I just love everything that's funny. I make light out of everything. I thought it was genius that they started the movie with this freaking Whitney Houston thing. Like we're still crying from April,
right?
And they said, you know what, we're doing this, and I love that moment. And we'll get to the end sequence of this movie, but I feel like this was probably the best end sequence. Maybe, I don't know if I haven't ranked them, but this is, if not the best, top 3 easily of like. Where we are in this phase. We're closing it out with this movie, and they did it like a not an easy task. This was like trying to make bad after Thriller. It's like This is great.
It's a good comparison.
Definitely, man. I could that well said, man. And this is my third time I want to say seeing it, but there's always something you can pick out of these films when it's just so fresh. So I guess just kind of playing into where we're at in the film now, we're seeing Spider-Man kind of embracing that he is Spider-Man and him. I will say, and not to. We'll talk about the positive and negatives, but I will say I would have liked to have seen Marisa Tomei as Aunt May and Peter Parker after she found he was Spider-Man in Homecoming. I would have liked to have seen that scene. Like, what did he say? How did that go? I mean, who knows?
What she said.
I love that moment. But just go, Joe, in regards to just kind of getting into this, seeing Peter Parker again, he's embracing this, ghosting Nick Fury. He wants to be. I love you mentioned it earlier, seeing Peter Parker as a kid. I love that he wants to be a superhero, but at the same time, he wants to go on a trip with his friends. So just kind of where are you at, man, with this kind of, we're seeing him kind of suffer PTSD from like Iron Man and Iron Man 3, but kind of where you're at with this film right now, man, at the beginning, first 10 minutes or so of this film.
Yeah, I think Chris hit it on the head. Like it's such a tough film to, whatever film was in this place was going to have a tall order, like to try to follow up everything that happened with Endgame. But I do like that they used Peter Parker because they are doing, like I said, they did do a good job with Homecoming of bringing him in as a child. Like he's a kid. He's trying to figure that out. And, we're seeing some growth with him, but there's also the ties to the past. But then, as we get through the movie, we see that part of the whole storyline is letting go of that. And I think that that's something that we also, like Iron Man, putting Iron Man in his past in a way. I think that's something that we can, carry forth with the entire MCU. Mm-hmm. If they would have just ended the phase 3 with Endgame and then put us in this long wait, could you imagine? Like no one expected COVID was going to happen, right? So we'd be waiting even longer. I just think this was the right move because they execute this character very well. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to see kind of where, and we'll get to this too, but they do drop a lot of seeds in this movie of things that are to come, not only with this character, but likely with the entire MCU down the road. So
definitely. And Dave, a question for you, man, in regards to that scene I just mentioned. We're seeing Marisa Tomei as Aunt May. Yeah. What's your thoughts on Aunt May and Marisa Tomei portraying this character? Normally we've seen her on the big screen. She's a little bit, older, but this is a fresher. This is a more younger, Aunt May. What's your thoughts on Aunt May, man?
Oh, she's a bad mother. That's all I got to say. And we had talked about this before. I think the last couple of watch-alongs is that I'd seen her in a New York Broadway play when I went to New York. Oh, by the way, I'm on the West Coast by Los Angeles. So yeah, when I went to New York, my brother lives out there. Back in November, we saw her on Broadway. She did an Italian play, like an Italian themed play, and I thought she was fantastic. It was like. Her range is just so dynamic. I just was like, man, like I felt like going up there with a copy of Spider-Man or something like that, and having her sign it, Mm-hmm. But I think she's awesome. I think it was perfect casting. But yeah, going back to that whole the whole Iron Man tie-in, how much they implement all of that into this film was perfect because going back to Endgame, we're leading off of Endgame, and I would have been happy if like Endgame was the last one and then COVID hit and then they would have spent a couple more years like perfecting this. I mean, it's a great, to me, I think it's just a great film, but I would have been fine if that would have been like Endgame and then End World basically is what 2020 is, right? That's like kind of where we're at right now. So I would have been fine with that, but I'm glad they kind of shimmied this in there into phase 3. Mm-hmm. And I'm just excited.
Same question from you, Big J, in regards to just your thoughts on Aunt May and her performance. And also just, we're seeing some of our supporting cast members, Ned and MJ. We'll talk about Zendaya as MJ and what you guys think about her, but just kind of, again, first 10 minutes kind of thoughts. And again, your thoughts on Aunt May and some of these supporting characters.
Yeah, I have to say that up to now, I'm not happy. Everything I don't like about this Spider-Man just happened in like these 10 minutes. And so when I was watching this, I was getting worried because everything was like the things I didn't like in the first one, the things I was like getting annoyed when I watched Endgame and all that. Everything was kind of happening in this like first minutes. So like, I don't like the suit. He's not Iron Man and he gets all this technology in the suit. Like, that's not Spider-Man. Spider-Man is like the underdog. He's the guy that has nothing. That's why we like him. He's the guy that gets beat up. He's the guy that has make his own thing, makes his own suit, makes his own like web things. Like here, he has everything. Like at the start with that suit, he reminds me of the guy from the Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man. It's just doesn't work for me. Like it just does not work. Like I don't mind May, yeah, and May is a bit older and stuff like that doesn't bother me. I don't mind when you change the comic books, when you change the story, but like there's some things that need to stay the same. The essence of the character needs to stay the same, and so Aunt May is okay because I still feel that she's the one that took after Peter when he lost his parents, and he cares about her, and that doesn't bother me. But all these things with the Spider-Man always having his goddamn mask off, like he goes on top of a building, he has his mask off. Everyone has a cell phone now. Like he's in the backstage. He goes a curtain. He takes his mask off. Anyone can see him. It's like we know it's Tom Holland. We don't need to show it all the time. That's what really like gets me. It gets on my nerves, but it gets better, and I like this relationship. Right? Yeah. Sorry, guys.
No, this is the beauty of film. This is, you're not saying, hey, if you like Spider-Man, you're stupid. The way you talk about it, man, is the way that it should be spoken about in regards. If there are dislikes, you said it, the best way you can, man. And I always appreciate that. We're always not going to agree on everything, which is a perfect segue into one of my questions I was going to ask. But, Leo, man, just kind of piggybacking off of what Anyolo was saying regarding this version of Spider-Man. So obviously this is the MCU version of Spider-Man, not the, as Anyolo said, the creating his own webs, creating his own suit. Even though we saw his his suit in Civil War briefly before he got his upgrades, and we saw it in Homecoming. But what's your take on this version of Spider-Man in the MCU?
So Big J hit some really good notes there. And I've been thinking about that when I was watching this movie the first time. I was like, wow, he kind of just has everything. But what I like about what the MCU has done is they've taken these characters and they've really embraced their own universe here. So this is the MCU's version of Spider-Man, like you were saying. And what I really like about this movie is I feel that it is a journey to separate from the Iron Man stuff, to separate from being so reliant on the Iron Man mantle and things like that. I mean, you've got that shot where he's looking straight at the mural and it's kind of this question of, am I the next Iron Man? And he gets toward the end of the movie. And to me, it feels as if he feels like he's finally Spider-Man. He's finally in it. And then Mysterio just wrecks all of that. And I think that's one thing that makes this movie so great is because where the story's headed. Spidey's going to have to be on the run. And I'm really excited for where things are going next. Yeah. The beginning of the movie, though, doesn't really bother me. I think it's the typical kind of MCU fare. You set up characters, you set up the plot and the story. It was pretty fun to me. I always love following the MCU movies, so I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah. I like Marisa Tomei as Aunt May. I think it's a refreshing change. What I really like about this version of Spider-Man is that we got a couple of refreshing changes because this is the third Spider-Man movie series here that we've gone through. And I don't want to talk about Amazing because I thought that series was a train wreck, but this to me is a refreshing return. And I feel like once we get to that third movie, we're going to really feel that classic Spider-Man vibe. So I'm looking forward to the future and really just enjoying the present as we're watching.
I mean, well said, man. And kind of going to Chris with this one, following what Big J said in regards to, kind of the foundation of Spider-Man is kind of lacking in regards to everything's kind of given to him at this point. He's Iron Man Jr. Everything's kind of sparked by Iron Man. His two villains so far have been kind of constructed by Iron Man and interactions with him. But, going to what Leo was just saying regarding this is the MCU's take on the character. And who knows, in 2021, November 5th, I think is the next Spider-Man. We have invested 2 films with him. We invested these stories with him. And now we're getting the Spider-Man. It's building to the Spider-Man that maybe Anyolo was looking for. But going into, piggybacking off of that and where we are now as a film, I know you mentioned that you love Spider-Man because he's from New York. He's from Queens. Yep. But now he's not in New York. How did you feel about them taking Spider-Man out of his element in New York?
I think the only way for this Spider-Man to keep up with that larger MCU, the Avengers, is to make those kind of changes. And I hear the concern that like an Unyolo would have. Obviously, if you're a comic book, you're like, this is what I grew up reading. It should be this way. I understand that completely. But I think that what Marvel's doing is trying to make their universe 2020, because like in 2020, like with social media and like Instagram, like they're gonna know Peter Parker.
Yeah.
You can't leave class anymore. Like even if we don't have school anymore because of COVID, like they'll know he's not on the Zoom calls. Like and I think that Marvel makes a conscious effort to say like starting with Iron Man, like I'm Iron Man, like that's like realistic. Like we would know these people. Like we can find out anything about anybody. So I think that's where they're wanting to go. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but to me, that's how I interpreted it. And that's how the end of this movie, I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Like Zendaya, we'll get to that part too, or MJ. You know, it's like, yeah, this is where we are, and I like it personally. And Aunt May is super hot, yes, as well.
Yeah, Melissa Tomei, as Joe said, she's been great since My Cousin Vinny, and recently seeing her in The King of Staten Island, she still has just a great performer all in all. But
she's kind of like aging backwards in a way, like
right?
It's really weird.
It is, man. It really is. So, Joe, I mean, just kind of again piggybacking off of a little bit in regards to your thoughts on Spider-Man being taken away from New York, right? This is the first time of any live action Spider-Man that we have seen Spidey out of his element in New York, right? How did you feel about that decision? Do you like that they're taking him more global because he is an Avenger? You know, Tony did knight him in Infinity War, so he's going global. But what's your thoughts on Spider-Man and taking the friendly neighborhood out of the neighborhood and put him in Europe?
Yeah, I think it's a happy medium. Like he's already been in the space. I mean, there's a joke about that, and he's been all over the place fighting major villains, and also was blipped for a little while. So. I'm totally into this. The fact that they do take him out of New York, but they also still ground him in a school trip, and he's still around his friends and still balancing what it's like to be a kid, and those friendships and everything that comes with them, or those relationships in general. So I'm into it. I really like it. I do want to see, and I do think we're going to see them come back to the New York setting. Yeah. But I think it was Leo that was saying like we've seen Spider-Man so many times in so many different ways. They needed to differentiate somehow, and I think they've done a good job of doing that.
Yeah, no, I think you and Leo, like you guys said, kind of separating the normal that we've seen from him. We don't get the Uncle Ben story, right? We don't see him get bit by a radioactive spider. It'll be really interesting to see what Matt Reeves does with his Batman, not, seeing Bruce Wayne and, Martha die for the 30th time. So it is really interesting to see, going back to Unyolo's comments regarding, the comic book and the essence of the character, but then, what's that happy medium for pleasing those that are comic book fans, but also introducing this character to a new audience. So it is a very tough thing that I think the MCU has done a good job of. In my personal opinion, 23, 22, 24 films into the franchise, Endgame wasn't necessarily based off of a comic book, right? It was like kind of the MCU's like, we have made it so many, we're 11 years into the franchise. We can now kind of, craft our own stories, right? And not have a backbone to rely on from a comic. So it's really, really interesting to see where they're at. But yeah, David, man, we're getting our first action set piece, which, by the way, let me bring this up for those that are just tuning in or watching the replay. We're right at the point where Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is on his trip, but now he's dealing with an elemental, the water elements, as we're seeing him kind of without his mask, as Aniel brought up, doing all these Spidey stuff. But we're 21 minutes and 45 seconds into the film for those at home. But yeah, going back to David, man, our first action set piece, man. What are you thinking about this? The CGI, the visual effects, and this first action scene?
Yeah, see, I didn't even notice it, but until Agnolo brought it up. I mean, is no one see kid jumping from pillar to pillar, like flying, with no mask on, just regular clothes and stuff like that? I mean, I loved seeing this first installment. It's I think it's pretty typical that we usually see a couple of villains now in a Marvel movie. It's like some kind of like a filler. Like, obviously it's created by Mysterio, but, I mean, it's like you kind of see a couple of little filler ones before we get to the big person. But I have so much to kind of talk about because you guys touched over a lot of different things in like the last, before you got back to me. But going back to the source material, like I understand, staying true to the lore, it's something especially for the fans that needs to be done. But with certain generational gaps and just time evolving, you're going to have to implement tech. You're going to have to just make things much cooler, appeasing to the eye. So yeah, you might have a Spidey on a Zoom call next and something of that nature, you know what I mean, with the newest iPhone or whatever it is, implementing it somehow. Yeah. But I totally didn't even notice until Big J said it about him doing all this without a mask on. And I think I was just so invested in these movies that you kind of just don't really pick up on it or you don't let it bother you too much, I guess. But I love this action sequence because then we, of course, get more Mysterio.
Yep.
Which was a huge factor of me loving this movie. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really good. All the CGI looks pretty clean. I mean, for what it is.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
definitely. And going back to Agnolo, man, again, we what you talked about before with this particular character and kind of, missing out on some of the things that you grew up with, but just kind of where you're at now with the film with, again, going back what Dave was saying. Yeah, he is, he has a Mardi Gras mask on now, but I think remembering where the world is at the state of the world, everyone's coming back from being blipped out. There was a purple alien that destroyed the world in Thanos. So I think people are just like, oh, there's a boy flying around. Oh, I guess that's just a normal thing to see in this universe, right?
Hey, Elliot, I forgot. Yeah. Did they mention why they call it the blip instead of the snap? Is that like a Sony Marvel thing or what's? I forgot. Is there a reason why they changed that?
And someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, and I'll just again go back to maybe the goofiness of this character, but him hitting his head on the bell. But I think it was just a matter of the kids in the high school just came up with that terminology, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Marvel, that like in the universe, it's canon that it's called the blip, which again kind of that Marvel comedy.
I think their explanation was that no one was present at the snap, just Thor and etc. Exactly. So it was a bit silly that everyone knew, oh, that's the name. So it kind of came out as being the blip because everyone just disappeared like that.
So and quick Google says that Kevin Feige was saying that they've always referred to it as the blip, but then fans started calling it the snap.
Snap, yeah.
So they just thought it was a funny way to reintroduce that terminology with the kids in the movie.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome.
Okay, so just to make it clear, my problem is that it's not different from the comic books. There's a lot of things like if they gave me Wolverine in his yellow suit, I would have walked out of any movie with Wolverine. My problem is not that. They need to change because things don't work the same. My problem is that if you gave me that suit that he has, I probably could climb walls and jump like him because that's kind of you kind of miss that he has superpowers of sticking to walls and jumping and stuff because it kind of is in armor like Iron Man is. And on the first movie, we see when he's talking with the suit and they go killer mode or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the suit does everything. We see that also in Endgame that he kind of just puts the killer mode on and the suit is doing everything. So that's my issue with it. It's not that they change it because there's a lot of things that in the comic books are stupid and not going to work. Mm-hmm. But yeah, in here, kind of now, I forgot. I'm okay. Mysterio looks really cool. So I'm fine with it. Yeah, he's jumping around. He didn't even took his goddamn backpack that he had on. So he looks exactly the same. He puts that mask on. It's but look, it's still better than DC that Superman takes his glasses off and no one recognizes him. So, guy at the movies, we still up one on DC because at least they put a mask on.
It's exhausting. Big J, exhausting.
Isn't there? And again, I know there's so many. I mean, especially Superman, but. Wasn't there some run where it's just it was some type of aura that he had that would confuse people or some kind of something on him that made people not realize that it was the same person with his glasses on or off? It was some type of something that people couldn't notice it was him, if I'm not mistaken.
It was some kind of kryptonite that did that. I don't remember what color or whatnot, but that was an explanation later on in one of the rebirths. Yeah,
definitely gotta love it. Yeah, there's some things you definitely gotta ignore when it comes to the comic book realm, right?
Well, which is a great point, right? That's a comic book thing. You're watching a comic book movie about a holographic person flying around doing stupid shit and a Spider-Man flipping around. So you got to suspend belief a little
sure.
bit and know what movie you're
For sure.
seeing.
And it also plays, you know, as I kind of mentioned, him hitting his head on the bell. Like he still is a kid too, so sometimes he might just react to things and not be like, I need to cover my face and this, that, and the other. He's just reacting, right? Because he's so young. He's still a young superhero.
Yeah.
No, but that's why I said this moment doesn't really like annoy me. What annoys me is when he comes out of like a stage and he crosses like a curtain and he takes his mask off. Out here, it would be stupid if he sees a big water monster and he's like, "Hey guys, wait a minute, I'm gonna put my mask on and my suit." Okay, fine, I'm fine with this now. It's just when it's like, oh, let's show my face because they paid a couple of $1 million. It's like Iron Man. Iron Man is with a metal suit. And then he has his head off. Any sniper could have killed him. Like, just leave your mask on. Just do it.
Hey, that's what they said. I guess Tom Cruise didn't want to be Iron Man because he wanted to show that face of his. So that's what sells the movie, right? You got to show the superstars' faces. But Leo, man, in regarding to where we're at now, you know, we're seeing Nick Fury for the first time, like actually in a film, not just a cameo at the end of Infinity War or the funeral scene at Endgame, but you know, we think it's Nick Fury. But kind of what's your thoughts on Spider-Man meeting Nick Fury for the first time, man?
I feel like it's about time, long time coming. This is the guy that started the MCU at the end of Iron Man that we were so very hyped to see when he popped up at the end of these movies. So of course he makes his way into this one and it's another pleasure. I like the great homage earlier that we got to Hydro Man in the scene where he was using the holograph to fight Spider-Man. And you know, Big J, this made me think of that scene a little bit differently. So it hit me too. It would have been cool if Spider-Man already had his suit on underneath the shirt and just kind of like got into the suit, put the mask on, and then went into action. I think that a few more scenes in the suit would have helped this movie out. But I mean, I still very much enjoy it. I would put it on my top 3 Spider-Man movies out of all of them, probably right at number 3. But so far, I'm loving it. And I'm glad to see that Nick Fury and Spider-Man finally get to cross paths. I mean, it seems like it's been forever, but is anybody else on the theory that that's not Nick Fury? Because I don't know. After the end of, what was it, Captain Marvel when he was on the Skrull ship? I just don't know if that's Nick, man.
So the question, and Chris, would love for you to take this question too that Leo's posing. So the question to the panel is, do we think this is the Nick Fury that we know, or is this the 90s? I can't think of the Skrull name from Ben Mendelsohn, but this is the Skrull that he's been pretty much Nick Fury maybe this whole time.
Yeah, that's tough. And I was watching a video earlier about all these Easter eggs and the debate on whether this is Nick Fury. I just found it, watching it, something was off, and I felt like, would he be this mean to this kid? And then I thought, well, maybe, because he's used to working with adults, and then he's just like, why am I even having to talk to this kid who won't answer my phone? And then it brought a good parallel to me to, like, you know, he had the most, I would call it static with Tony Stark.
Mask off.
Now it's like, yeah, exactly. Now it's like, now this kid who is now the new Tony Stark is now giving me static. So it's kind of like keeping us with an Iron Man version. So I was like, is he just acting weird, or is it? It was confusing to me.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And I guess, you know, same question here from starting with Joe, man, just kind of your thoughts on Nick Fury. Has he always been in space with Sword and just been hanging out and on vacation, or does he pop in occasionally throughout the MCU that it is him and then, you know, goes back in space and taking care of intergalactical stuff? So what's your thoughts on the Nick Fury being an actual appearance in this film?
Yeah, I think it was mostly him. I think that was something they threw in like late in the game with the whole Skrull piece of it, because I do think that that's part of something we're going to be seeing more of in the future.
Absolutely.
I think it was him, and I do think it's him here too.
Gotcha.
It's funny, like, as you guys were talking about that and bringing up like Captain Marvel and whatever scene, and when Leo said that, I was like, oh yeah, that was that movie. Like, I can't even remember what movie gave us what now. I'm like,
20-something films in, definitely a lot of history and a lot of homework to do with some of these films at this point. But David, man, you know, we talked briefly about DC a little bit, you know, and you know, we got Marvel. They both have their own versions of the multiverse, and you know, we're seeing this kind of inklings of a multiverse. Just kind of your thoughts on multiverses. Are you a fan of when things intertwined time travel and alternate versions of the characters. What's kind of your stance on the multiverse situation, man?
I think that goes back to what Agnolo said about him, about Tom Holland being in like the Iron Man Spidey suit, right? It's almost like a cheat code. I mean, and that's kind of like what you can do with these series is you could just say, okay, well, let's explore space now. We're interdimensional this, because it's almost like a reboot. We could just start over and there could be a billion Spider-Mans, and then we have a billion other movies to just make money off of, right? So I think I don't mind that it's going that way, especially with Phase 4 and stuff. We're gonna get a lot of space stuff or underwater stuff or whatever it is, or more Wakanda and stuff like that. I'm very intrigued with where all this goes, and I'm excited for the multi. I mean, what we saw with into the Spider-Verse and stuff. I think it makes for good entertainment. So it's like all ages, So yeah.
No, definitely. Well said. And the same question to you on Yellow regarding just the multiverse and cop out, as kind of David alluded to, where it's like, hey, I read an article today that, and this has been talked about since the Endgame, but there are plans of bringing back Thanos, because obviously there's multiple versions of Thanos out there, and we obviously killed the 2014 Thanos in Endgame, but there's still other versions of Thanos out there. So how do you feel about the multiverse? Does it get tricky? Does it get convoluted? Or is it just a way of introducing a new, this is how, we're going to recast some of these characters when they in their contracts, Florence Pugh as the new Black Widow of just different things of that nature. What do you think about the multiverse and kind of the introduction of it?
Well, before going into that, if you guys don't follow the comic books, there's a big Easter egg there. That guy Dimitri, I think is going to be important for the next movie, because in the comic books he's the chameleon, and he's the brother of Craven. That for sure is going to be the next best guy.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about the next villains for sure.
The multiverse, okay. If they do it as they do it in the TV show of The Flash, I'm out. Because it's like I'm watching the same show over and over and over.
Yeah.
If they do it like that, no, not there. But I always find it a little bit of a cop out when you like multiverses and time traveling. It's always an easy way to explain things. Yeah. But the thing that with the MCU is they proved over and over again that we should trust them at least to see what they're going to do, because everything that we probably thought, oh, that's not going to work, they kind of did it. So I'm curious to see it, and I think it's a good way to introduce new characters, to introduce like new versions of the characters. But I just don't want it to be a cheap way of like every time an actor starts getting a big wage because they already did a couple of movies.
Yeah, it's like a
let's replace him now, and we'll say, oh, there's a multiverse here, and now this guy is like, and I think it's a little bit what we kind of gonna get with the Black Widow, is they kind of like got someone that was cheaper, but at the same time they were unlucky because Florence Pugh now is like a huge actress.
Yeah.
So she's not going to be cheap for long. So
right.
So as long as they don't go the cheap way and bring back Tony Stark because everyone wants to see him again, and it just makes everything that happened before like didn't matter. I don't care, because there's other ways to do it. Like Thanos is probably going to show up in Eternals because it could happen before. So there's other ways to do this without doing the cheap way. But if they do it right, it's fine, because we saw it with animated Spider-Verse. And if it's done right, it really, really works.
Yeah, no, I think, and Leo, I would love to get your thoughts on the multiverse, man. But kind of going off what Aniello said, it depends on how they use it, right? You don't want to see it every movie that they're just making. We see a hero die, and we can just go back in the multiverse. Because again, in Endgame, the time travel device that Bruce Banner created and Tony Stark, it's still around. So maybe something with Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, maybe it's just like only one person can use, go back into a multiverse or get whoever we need. And it's just like major Avenger level threats only is when the multiverse is being brought up. So I'm just kind of curious on what your thoughts on the multiverse is. And do you think Marvel's going to use it as a cop out to, again, bring back an Iron Man, Thanos, Black Widow, Natasha later down the road, and all the fallen characters? What's kind of your thoughts on the multiverse, man?
See, and that's my only concern is is don't bring back characters that die for a purpose. I think that would completely destroy their entire story. It would destroy the current characters.
Mhm.
It would really take away from the storytelling that they've built up so far. So while I don't mind it as like an accessory, like it was in Into the Spider-Verse, where you just bring in different versions of a character, or hey, if you put Miles in the movie, that'd be cool. But I don't want it to become a device to start bringing back the past. Sure. Okay, we're going to bring back Cap. We're going to make Cap. We're going to put him on the front lines for this movie again because we need Cap. I just don't think anything like that is necessary. Mm-hmm. But if it has to do with small oddities here and there, pulling in small details, small characters, I'm okay with it. But I just don't want it to be their scapegoat into, coming into the past again. But I think it's a really cool concept. I think it's a great idea if executed well. I just stay away from Iron Man, stay away from Natasha. Let's not be bringing back Thanos as the main villain. If we want to bring him back in Eternals, that's cool, but he doesn't need to be the big bad again. Come on now.
But we also have two things that we're talking about here, right? Like there's the time travel and then there's the multiverse.
Which is pretty confusing in all of itself.
Yeah, and I was just sitting here as people were talking, trying to like organize it in my head, and I'm not there yet. So I'll probably stop this conversation in 2 seconds. But you had what you found out in Endgame was that there's different timelines, right? Mm-hmm. So that whole thing with the I forget her name,
the ancient one.
Yeah, the ancient one. Yep. And Banner. Like you then understand that there's different timelines, and that's how we're getting like Loki on Disney Plus and different things like that. So if they're gonna bring someone back, it's going to be probably through a different timeline or through time travel. With the multiverse, what you're talking about is it's the same thing as pretty much the same thing as DC, which what DC has with Flashpoint, where there's different versions of the characters. And I think that's what we're going to get. We're going to get different versions of characters that may come from like, a different Earth or whatever it may be. So I do think that we're going to get to the point one day where, and maybe it's sooner than later, where you're going to see cameos from the departed characters. I totally believe that they'll do that. That is a money ploy, and that is going to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a comic book thing too, as we, even if we're not super sweaties into the comics, I mean, it's a thing that the comic book, DC's use it a ton of times. Obviously, Marvel's kind of introducing it in the films, but it is something that, and not to like say an excuse like, well, the comics did it and now the movie, but it is something that, we've seen before. But I think it is, like we've all said, it's just a matter of how they use it. But, going to Chris in regarding the question that's posed to the panel regarding the multiverse. And again, I think, Doctor Strange is really going to be the film that's going to really kind of explore that more or less. And we might see, we'll talk about our favorite Spider-Mans in a little bit, but Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, different versions of their universe and who they mean to their universe and how that plays out. And I've been a fan of the idea of Scarlet Witch being the villain for maybe half of the multiverse. She's the one that's going to really shake the world up. Maybe mutants, maybe Fantastic Four, but maybe also killing off multiple versions of these people in the different multiverses. And that might be in that scapegoat that we're looking for. But just kind of your thoughts, your theories on how Marvel's going to use this ploy. Also, time travel, and it's all the madness that we're introducing to the universe.
Yeah, it's a lot. And Big J, my man, said it really well. And I liked what he said about, Marvel hasn't recently given us a reason to doubt them. It's kind of like Apple. If you hear a rumor about some feature the new iPhone's going to have, we're all like, what the hell? And then when it comes out, we're like, damn, this is good. Mm-hmm. So I think Marvel is in that lane, and we're not in the time of X3 versus Days of Future Past, where Days of Future Past had to correct a movie. Yeah. I don't think we have any fatal flaws in our little, recent MCU history. So I think I just trust where they're going with it. And, it is kind of confusing, but I do like, what my guy at the movies is saying about, we will see the different versions of characters, and it was so proven by the Spider-Verse that success. So they have no reason not to explore it further.
Yeah, no, well said. It's all exciting stuff, again, multiverse. And also just kind of going back to the chat a little bit, Dan says, I think after Endgame, going back to Nick Fury, he was switched. So Fury goes from space. After that, I think he's set up in the cosmic version of S.H.I.E.L.D., with after Thanos. So maybe setting up Galactus. So that's definitely a question I'll bring up later in this conversation regarding the future of MCU, but definitely some good stuff there, Dan. We got David saying, when you add time travel to the multiverses, it becomes keeping track of all of it is definitely, you got to have the map of what's going on and who's who and what multiverse we're in. I feel once it gets too complicated with the multiverse, they have the perfect escape route with the secret. Again, that's another conversation we're going to bring up later regarding the futures. Joe brought it up earlier. Skrulls and the secret worlds and Skrulls and Kree War and all that stuff is definitely something I see happening in the future. I think they will just use the multiverse for things like Spider-Verse at setting the big events and cosmic entities. If they bring back characters, I don't think it will work. Yeah, I think we can all agree there. And then David says, I see the three realms here: time travel lines, multiverses, and quantum realm. Yeah, that is. I didn't forget about it, but now that he brings it up, we have the quantum realm to worry about too, with Ant-Man and everything of that nature, and seeing what comes of that, because there's its own kind of confusion there. So a lot of science. Who knows? Maybe they'll get Christopher Nolan to direct one of these sci-fi movies for Marvel to really explain to the audience. But a lot of interesting stuff here. So kind of going back to the movie, Joe, kind of, where we're at with the film now is we're seeing Spider-Man doesn't really want to help Nick Fury out, and he wants to be a kid, right? He wants to enjoy his vacation. But, kind of, do you see where Peter's coming from at this young age? He wants to just have a vacation. We mentioned why he may not have his suit with him under his outfit is because he left the suit back in New York. But kind of what's your thoughts on where Spider-Man is at? And do you kind of feel for him?
I mean, I totally feel for him. He just went through Endgame and he was gone for 5 years. Like, let's give him a break here. No, I think I totally get it and totally appreciate where it's coming from in the story, especially after you just saw someone like Mysterio take down 3 of the 4 big elements. You're like, why do you need me?
Yep. Totally. Same with you, Dave. Just kind of where you're at with the film, man. Again, we are, just for everyone at home, as well as people that's watching us on replay, we are right at the close to 45-minute mark. Kind of what, and again, David, I know like many of us, this is kind of our first time rewatching since the theater, man. But are you still loving it as much as you did when you saw it back in the theater last year? Or kind of where you're at with this film at this point of the movie, man?
I think when you're walking out of the theater, you remember the highlights, right? So you're remembering all the action scenes and stuff, not all the dialogue in between, for the most part. I mean, I'm short-term memory as it is, so this is like watching it for the first time. But I think it is good that they add all this filler in, him, being conflicted, being torn with. I mean, this is after Civil War, this is after Endgame, Infinity War, all this stuff, right? So he's gone through battle just like a lot of them have as well, and he's just like, shit, I need to be a kid, and I mean, I can't relate, obviously, no one can, but like, I mean, I can empathize with this character, and I'm glad they left this in here, not only for filler, but it adds an emotional depth. I mean, he's still dealing with. I mean, you could see the sadness in his eyes every time they bring up pretty much Iron Man and that whole situation that happened and stuff. And even like right now, this little talk that they have is it needs to be in there for the movie, and I'm still invested.
Yeah, I mean, same with you, Big J, and at this point in the film where you're at. And, I think this is, as David said, this is a good character moment because, again, it shows you, Peter, Richard Parker and his mom, Mary, we don't know what happened to them in this version of the MCU. We obviously don't know what happened to Uncle Ben, but, he, as we, going back to maybe not relating to this because it's superheroes, but for me, I mean, I didn't grow up with a father, so knowing that, having a male figure to try to mentor you kind of want to embrace people, right? So I think that, and that kind of goes to maybe the naive of him being so young and just accepting people and just thinking that they're looking the best in people. But kind of where are you at with it, Young Yellow, this relationship that they're playing so far, where they're making us think that Mysterio is a good guy, and we know that he's not in the comics. So kind of where are you at with this kind of particular plot point?
Yeah, I think this is what they did better in this movie. Is like this is the comic book Spider-Man for me. He's the guy that trusts everyone, even like he gets betrayed over and over and over and over again. People like Connor that becomes the Lizard, Octopus, Dr. Hawk. Like this happens over and over, but that's the guy is always the optimistic one that trusts his people. And I think they got that really well here, and especially after losing Iron Man, that was kind of his father figure.
Yeah.
He sees in Mysterio that guy, and I think I think this is what the MCU is great at. Like in 10 years, they put little stuff in their movies. Like if you look back at the movies, you never thought that like virtual reality thing that we see in Iron Man using it, that was going to use as a plot to create like a villain that's gonna get Spider-Man. It's really impressive. They must have like, you go into these MCU rooms when they do like brainstorming, and it's gonna be like a serial killer kind of thing with the line
map.
everything is connected, and that's pretty cool. And they create this character, and they have the time. That's the other thing that's cool is they don't rush it. They have a lot of movies to create who Spider-Man is and why is he doing this, why he reacts in certain. So him not wanting to be Spider-Man here and just wanting to kind of get with MJ after everything he went through. I think it completely fits, and that there's no problem there. It's a great moment.
Yeah, I mean, and Leo, man, we got a couple acting set pieces, but now we're getting the quieter character moments, which kind of segues into one of my questions for the whole panel, starting with Leo. The supporting characters, we got Ned, we got Flash Thompson, and we got Zendaya as MJ. So just kind of a loaded question, but what's your thoughts on these supporting characters? Ned being his best friend, Flash Gordon or Flash Thompson having a particular storyline in the comics where he becomes a certain character that I don't know if he will in this version, but in particularly Mary J, Zendaya, are you a fan of the portrayal of Mary J, the switcheroo of the character of sorts? Just kind of, again, just a loaded question, but your thoughts on the supporting cast.
So if you read the comics, you know that MJ is very bubbly and very outgoing and has a very, very high energy in the comics most of the time. And here, a little more low key, a little more introverted, but I like the change. It's another change that I really invited to this story. This is, again, the MCU Spider-Man. I dig that he's got like a little crew that he can feel for and look toward, because I mean, the events that have happened in the movies leading up to this, imagine being alone after all of that. So I like the change they brought to MJ, and I think that Zendaya and Tom Holland play off each other incredibly well. I mean, they have great on-screen chemistry together, that kind of awkward high school love where you really don't want to admit it, but you really are. It just really works with them. They have a lot of charm together. I like Ned. He's a character from Miles Morales. So I really do like them bringing him over into Peter Parker's world, giving Peter a friend that could he could really just tell all these Spider-Man things to. They're really good. I think my favorite side character crew is the people in Ant-Man, Louise and guy and all of them. Like they're definitely my favorite side characters. But these are some good side characters as well. And kind of referencing earlier a little bit, what I do like about this movie so much is up until this point, even us as the audience, we're like, okay, this is the MCU. Mysterio has to be a villain, but when is it coming? Like, how is it going to come? Just the way he even tricked us a little bit into like waiting for that moment of when Mysterio will finally reveal he's behind it the whole time. And it was so in character for that villain. They absolutely nailed Mysterio in this movie too. So yeah, supporting cast is good and Mysterio is great.
Well said, man. Yeah, Chris, man, just your kind of thoughts on Zendaya's portrayal of Mary J. Like Leo said, a little bit more bubbly in the comics and the animated series and Sam Raimi's version and Ned and everything. Are you a fan of the supporting cast, or do you feel like we're maybe not given as much to do? Like we don't know much about Mary Jane's family at all. Is her dad or mom a potential villain of a Sinister Six maybe, or what have you, and Ned's family? Like, so what's your thoughts on the supporting characters?
Yeah, I do think they could have been, I guess, explored more, but I do like what they did a lot, and I love Zendaya in I think everything. So
yeah,
and I was learning. I didn't know that until today, but that Mary Jane in the comics has like a complicated relationship with her father. So that could possibly explain like why she's like so gloomy in these things. But I thought Ned's love story was one of the funniest things in the MCU history. I think that's genius. And then how, that's just genius. I liked Flash more in Homecoming, but still Flash is still good.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't want to sleep on JB Smoove and the other teacher. That's the dude from Silicon Valley. I forget his
Kind
name.
of comic relief. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those dudes are all like well cast, and they just help the story move along. And like having to deal with 2019, 2020 kids like on a field trip, it's like come on, like we all remember being in school and like going on field trips, and just they made it very like realistic. So I'm a big fan of Zendaya, number one, and a big fan of the cast.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, Joe, man, same question to you, my friend, regarding just the supporting cast members, maybe your likes as well as dislikes, and maybe what the future holds for these characters.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I'm just glad that they're not like 35-year-olds trying to play high schoolers. Right? So that's always a plus.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like Flash Thompson in the original series was Joe Manganiello or whatever?
He was probably like in his mid-20s when he got cast in that role.
Yeah, at least. So I do like that. I love Zendaya. I completely agree with Chris. I love Zendaya. I think she's incredible in everything she's in. I'm still not sold that this is the typical Mary Jane that we're used to. That I wonder if they're playing us a little bit with that and like referring to her as MJ, but it's not really the MJ that we know. I think they may be leaving themselves open a little bit to make a different decision down the road. But I totally agree. I mean, it's nice to see that he has a group of friends to go back to. Like, if you think back to the original series, his friends he had MJ and he had what's his name, James Franco, who ultimately
Harry Osborn,
Harry Osborn. So like, didn't necessarily surround himself with confidants. So I do like it, and I totally agree. I think the teachers are great. Like the whole direction with Spider-Man just lightens up the mood of the entire MCU so much. Like even this whole like spider monkey thing. I do want to see more of Ned. I do like him a lot. I think he is a perfect partner for Spider-Man here, for Peter Parker. But again, I think there's they have a lot of different directions they can go given the ending of this and given where we think they're going to end up going with the villains in the future. So
no doubt. Yeah, David, man, same thing. Just your thoughts on the supporting cast members. And when Joe was just kind of talking about, the family and maybe figuring out what their family history is and who they might be tied to, I wouldn't be surprised seeing a Ned or even a Mary J appear in a Scarlet Witch and Vision show. Like maybe her parents are neighbors of theirs, or maybe, Falcon and Winter Soldier, maybe one of their parents works in the government, the Shield, aka Hydra. So it's so many things they could do now with TV, but not to convolute the question, but just your thoughts on, again, these supporting characters. Are you a fan of theirs? Do you want to see more, or are they complement the films perfectly?
Yeah, so I mean, I can agree to a certain extent that I would love to see Ned in cameos as a whole series. Probably not. I mean, it's kind of a stretch, at least for me. I mean, I think he fits well more of a supporting character. I'll be honest. I think Ned is like this seems like such a natural, like homie. Like that's your homie Bond. Yep. You know what I mean? Him and Tom Holland. So that's why it's so genuine. Especially, I think it might be at the end of Endgame, like when they hug in the hallway. Like it just was like. It was like so it might have been it wasn't, I think, Endgame. It was it was like so genuine. Like I felt that right away. Now this is gonna be a hot take. I absolutely hate Zendaya as MJ. I hate I hate her as so that's kind of what it is, just because I don't like the whole frumpy, like real like lazy kind of look that she's always giving. It's just backstory or not, it's just, I never felt like this was MJ. I thought Liz from Homecoming was going to be MJ when I first saw it, and I was like, that would have been a better casting, at least for me, like the chemistry wise. So I think they're going to develop what could be something a little better, but towards the end of the movie I kind of got their dynamic a little more, but I never ever liked Zendaya as MJ, and that's a hot take. That's fine, but that's cool because I'm the opposite of everybody on this panel. So that's kind of.
I've heard you're not the only one, man. And again, posing this question on Yellow, but you're not the only. I've heard a lot of people are not the biggest fans of the portrayal, but again,
she's a great actress, though. Don't get me wrong. No, I just think for this role, I just didn't feel it. That's the thing.
Yeah, and there may, and again, Noah Marvel, there may be a reason why. Again, you guys mentioned it. Maybe it's like Chris said, the situation at home. Who's her dad? Or maybe the dad is thrown out a weird theory, crazy theory, some relation to Nick Fury, maybe, and maybe she's a Skrull, maybe, and she's in Shield with. There's so many possibilities again with the MCU. So the family tree. You don't know who she could be related to, but it also may not be her. Again, going back to our.
I probably lost some subscribers for that one too. By the way,
no, like I've heard people bring that up before,
there's so many hotter takes than that. That's
yeah,
but
yeah,
good.
Yeah,
You're good,
definitely, man. But on YOLO, man, just your thoughts on these supporting characters, Ned, MJ, Flash, and everyone on the crew.
Well, I think if they're setting up anyone to have some supervillain dad or mom, it's going to be Flash, because you always see in the end with the parents not like showing up.
Picking him up at the airport. Yeah.
I think they're setting up something with him, because it just looks a little bit. But that's one of the problems I have with Flash, is that I can't hate that guy. I kind of feel sorry for him, because he looks like he's just like being a bully because he has his own problems. And in the comic books, he's like just a guy you want to punch in his. And in here, I don't really see that. But in regards to MJ, I think like in the comic books, when we get to know MJ, she's like older. We see her older. She's like a supermodel. She's already working, going around. And when she meets Peter Parker, she's like in an older age, out of school. So what I think it can happen is if. Like non-spoilers, but in the end of this movie, Peter is going to have to be on the run. And we don't know how long he's going to be on the run. It can be like a couple of years. So we might see MJ that completely changed, because like she like got away from her dad that was abusive, and she started like working as a model, because we all know Zendaya could work as a model anytime.
She's a model.
So I think that could be the setup, is like, how is that going to be when Peter meets her again and she's completely different, and she grew up and she like continued her life. So I think that can be what they're setting up, is like showing a completely different MJ when he's able to be with her again, and having that drama that if people grew apart and how they're gonna handle that. So I think there's a lot of stuff we can do with her, because like we all know her from other roles, and she can be that bubbly personality. She can do that easily. So I think that might be where they're going with it. But the supporting cast is great. I love Ned. Ned is hilarious. Like when he puts his suit like in the first one, I still like. And then the whole thing with building the Death Star and I think that's the thing they got it right, is that they are kids. And on the Tobey Maguire, we didn't felt that. We never felt he was a kid. And in this one, we feel that the problems he has is problems that kids would have. So I think the supporting characters really help him doing that. And it's one of my favorite bits in these movies.
Yeah, no, it's well said. And you brought up a good point too. The Marvel always plays with their films take place in normally the years that we're in until Endgame. We're 5 years ahead. So you're totally right. Next time we see Peter Parker, it'll be a year and like 6 months since we would have in the timeline. So they could have almost been 2 years apart from each other. And like you said, people change in 2 years. So very good, interesting, maybe a subplot to have in the next film. But kind of one of my questions and kind of a question I want to pose to the panel for everyone, starting with Joe. We got a new suit. We got the stealth suit in this film, and we obviously got the Iron Man suit that he made for him, the Iron Spire. But just kind of curious on if you guys, again, starting with Joe, if you have a personal favorite suit from Sam Raimi's Tobey Maguire. We got Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man suit. We got, again, Iron Spider and the suit that we got in this film. Do you have a personal favorite, starting with Joe?
Yeah, I remember when the first one came out, when the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire one came out, and I loved it. And I think to this day, I still love it. So that's definitely the one that I think I'm a fan of. It is like a little bit more gaudy with like the raised lines and everything, but then you kind of get the same thing with the second one as well. So I'm totally into that one. I like what they're doing with the new one. The eyes still freak me out, even though the eyes like are, they're trying to play with the comic book accurate stuff. But I think the first one's always the one I go back to. I think I had a few masks of it too, actually, growing up.
Nice. Yeah, same question to you, David. And then actually, before we even go to David right now, big point, as we all talked, what Leo said, when is the point he's going to turn evil? We got the point here. So David,
I was just about to bring that up. Like, this is the funniest scene right here.
For real.
it is. And again, it goes back to Unyolo regarding, again, the influence of Spider-Man or Tony Stark. I've always been the one. I'm Team Cap all day. If you guys don't know, like when it was a Civil War, I was on Cap's side because Iron Man has made some mistakes in MCU. I mean, literally Ultron, Civil War, and Vulture, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But obviously the creation, Barf. I mean, he's rubbed the people the wrong way, to say the least.
That's a harder take than the Zendaya, for the record.
What, the Iron Man stuff?
Team Cap. That's a harder take than Zendaya.
Oh, it's Team Cap all day for me, man. Like it's I could do this all day. That's my boy Cap. But David, favorite suit, but also just kind of your thoughts on this scene, and do you like that he was created, and we got the appearance from the guy in the first Iron Man is kind of tying into, again, this universe they're building. But favorite suit and thoughts on Mysterio revealing his true nature.
Well, first, jump into the scene because it's going on right now. Is just I think it's pretty just hilarious, and it adds a lot to his character. I mean, it just adds like a snarkiness to his whole mystique. No pun intended. But like, I thought it was a cool scene, and just how showing all the old, all these characters he's surrounded himself with, working with, and like all the tie-ins from the older movies. Mm-hmm. But as far as the suits go, man, I've never seen them like side by side like this, and they all look crispy as hell. Like they look really cool. What Joe said as far as the first one, man, there's something iconic about that look right there. Just it's very I mean, I don't know if it's comic booky because I mean you're seeing it obviously in 3D, but like something about that first one. But I think the third one, that's the one from Infinity War, right?
Yeah, the Iron Spire suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really am a fan of that one with the glowing eyes, and it's just I don't know. I mean, it has the tie-ins, of course, with Iron Man and a very Iron Man-ish look. I really do like that suit. I think that's the one with the biggest spider in it as well, as far as the emblem goes. Yeah. I'm gonna have to go with that third one from Infinity War.
Nice. New and improved, like he said in Infinity War. Smells like a new car in here, Mr. Stark. But yeah, Chris, same question to you, man, in regards to favorite suit. And then also, like I said, the scene that we got playing out now, Mysterio, Quentin Beck, in the comics was a visual effects person. That was his day job. But how do you like this reveal? But again, like I said, the first question being the favorite suit.
Yeah, I'll go reverse. This scene for me, and obviously watching the cartoon, I knew Mysterio was a bad guy, but then watching this in the theater, I'm like, what? Why is he not doing anything bad? Is this dude like a nice dude? I thought he was bad. So this scene was for me. I was like, oh wow, because I hate doing the predicting movies thing. I'm just like the let it happen guy. So I was oh wow, this is huge. So I like this reveal a lot. Yeah. And the suit, I'm gonna go unpopular opinion. I'm going with Garfield's suit, and I don't care.
The basketball suit.
I'm going with the Amazing Spider-Man suit, and I pulled it up on my Chrome, like on the iPad, and I'm looking at the movie poster, the movie poster.
Yeah.
Badass when it's like scratched up, and then you got the man. I'm going with suit too.
It's what I do like about, and we'll talk about Amazing Spider-Man here in a bit, but what Mark Webb did, like the practical elements of Spider-Man, going through New York was really practical and really cool what they did. And obviously we know that Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man doesn't get as much love as some people might like it, but I mean, it's a good call, man. It's a very unique suit.
And real quick too, I think it's insane that this dude is named Mark Webb, and there's another thing. And I watched an interview with Emma Stone back when that movie came out, and she spoke about seeing Garfield in the suit the first day and how like she was it felt so real. So in my head, I was like, oh yeah, okay. So that stuck with me too. So maybe that's a little extra bias, but I like that. I like the suit.
Definitely, man. Definitely. So yeah, Leo, man, same question to you, my friend, regarding your favorite suit, and as well as again the reveal of Quentin Beck as Mysterio, the villain, as we had known. Again, like Leo or what Chris was saying, it wouldn't have been different for Marvel to have him play a different story. We saw what they did with the Mandarin. We saw the reveal of the Skrulls. They are normally bad people in the comics, but they're good. Or at least this species of Skrulls are good Skrulls. But once we get the reveal that he is a villain, had to be a little relief, right? Because you want to see Quentin Beck be the bad guy. But favorite suit and thoughts on Mysterio?
I mean, I'll start with the thoughts on Mysterio. That was one of the best scenes in the movie for me, because I'll admit I was a little bit fooled. I was kind of just like, all right, it's been about 50, 60 minutes into the movie. Still haven't said anything. I mean, maybe they did change him just like the Skrulls, just like the Mandarin. But wow, when they finally revealed him to be who he was, I was like, this is the Mysterio we've been wanting the whole time. I mean, it was just incredibly exciting. I actually had to mute my mic because I was laughing my ass off. But I just love how like over the top and hokey he is, because that's how Mysterio is in the animated series. That's how like in the comics, he's very over the top, very goofy, and he's just like riling the troops. And I love that they thread the needle all the way back to Iron Man 1 like that. I mean, and that's one thing that the MCU does just in such an expertly done way. They just explore old movies in their current movies in such small, tiny ways. And I love that this is just all interconnected and they remind you every single movie. Now, in terms of suit, I love each and every suit, to be honest with you. Like each suit has its own kind of special look and take to it. What I really like about Tobey Maguire's is got that kind of aesthetic look, like the webs look like they have such texture. And I love that suit because it is the first live action I remember seeing. So that was cool. I liked Andrew Garfield's eyes. I thought that they were kind of big and larger than the other Spider-Man suits. And I thought that it looked really cool. Iron Spider, I mean, of course, the glowing eyes. I think my favorite one, and this is probably going to be a hot take too, is the most recent one, the Far From Home suit. I love the black. I always like when they do a black Spider-Man, a black and red in the comics. So I love that they brought it on screen here. I do wish the spider was a little bit bigger, but it's like clean and neat in the middle there. And I like how it matches that black on the sides. It's just a good looking suit, in my opinion. I think it would be perfect with different eyes. I don't really like the eyes on Holland's suit that much, but I love everything else. It's clean.
It's a great call, man. And also too, the spider we know kind of plays into it's a web or a drone, and it has its own little things it could do with the suit. And to Agnello's point earlier, he built it himself. We'll get to that scene obviously in the next 20 or 30 minutes. So, but this is one that he crafted, right? That he was able to make on his own. So that definitely, I know, probably put a smile on Agnello's face. But Big J, man, same question to you, man, regarding favorite suits that we have here, and then the reveal of Mysterio and Barf again. Leo said it that they're bringing in things that we saw from the first Iron Man, from Civil War, and now we see that coming full circle. But thoughts on the suit and the Mysterio reveal?
Yeah, this is one of the things I was saying before. Like on paper, that could be a very cheap, easy, like cop-out moment where you remember this guy that you never saw? He was connected with Iron Man, and then. But how they did it was perfect. And I think it worked so well because of Jake. I don't even know how to say his name because I don't even know he knows that. But Jake Gyllenhaal is like perfect in this role because that's exactly how he had to be. He had to be full of himself. He had to be like this showman, kind of like snake oil seller that got all these people to work with him. And I think it was like the perfect moment to show what this guy was, because that's kind of how he is in the comic books. He's not like a strong guy. He's not like this big bad villain. He kind of is someone that puts people against each other, and he kind of uses people's beliefs against themselves. So I think he was just perfect. In terms of the suits, I love the Andrew Garfield suit. I think it's perfect.
There you go, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. Like the first one is very like the comic books, but at the same time, it's like I said, he made it himself, but it looks like so damn perfect that. And I think the second one, like in the Garfield one, he has some defects. Like it doesn't always look completely tight to his skin. Sometimes it's a little bit loose. It just looks a little bit more natural. And I'm sorry, like I just ate all this technology one, like from Iron Man. It looks like Iron Man with a spider on his chest. So I'm not a fan of that one. And he can like breathe in space, and he can do this, and he can do that. Like I just really like the simple one. I think that one works really well, and those scenes that he flies, especially on the second movie, that's horrible. The second Amazing Spider-Man, when he's flying over New York, and I think that's kind of some of the best sequences we get of Spider-Man going through the city.
Yeah.
Apart from the video games,
yeah.
that I still think like they look amazing. The video games, how they do it, I think in that movie, it just looks amazing, and I think that's why we need New York. Because I don't know all you guys where you're from, but if it came to Portugal, it would be screwed having to like shoot his webs. There's no buildings here, so he would have to be walking around the whole time.
Taking Ubers everywhere to
yeah, it's like in LA. It would have some problems in LA also. So I think he needs to go back to New York for some of these things. But the suit there of Amazing Spider-Man, I think it looks amazing.
Well, two for Amazing Spider-Man, one for the new one, and a couple for the classic. And then a couple people in the chat too. Someone had mentioned the video games, which are great games for sure. But someone picked Tobey Maguire. I love the reveal, but I thought his motivation was a bit strange. However, I love the character, and seeing him live action was awesome. Yeah, the reveal, I actually really like, again, like Oniolo said in the comics, and also Leo said it too in regards to who he is. Again, he's a special effects expert, so he has to make things up, right? So that's kind of part of his personality. He's putting on an act. He's putting on a performance for Peter. So I actually like that reveal, and I also like the Barf too, that they brought it back from Civil War. And a lot of people were making theories that Barf was going to be how they're going to go back in time and bring back some of the Avengers, but that wasn't the case. But I think that technology is still going to be in the MCU in the future. Tobey Maguire is better as far as his suit. Second, Andrew Garfield. Toby suit is too CGI. I think they might have meant Tom Holland's maybe is too CGI, but or maybe
probably Tom Holland.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tom suit is too CGI. Yep. All righty. So great. Like you all have said it perfectly. They all have their own kind of memorable moments and great designs, and they fit the movie that they're in, right? And then I love that they're all different from each other, which is another thing. It's not a repetitive type of look and design. So awesome. So again, for those that are at home, I brought it up in the middle of the conversation that we had there, but I'll bring it up again. We are about an hour and 14 minutes into the film. This is the part where Mary J, she knows the identity. She kind of knew it the whole time, as she says, and they're kind of putting the pieces to the puzzle together that Mysterio is behind everything, the elementals, and we're getting a little bit of different Mary J. She's showing a young girl growing up, and like, hey, this is a guy I like, and I just love this scene with Ned here.
So I did want to bring that back to Mary Jane, because the last, like when they're on that bridge and she's pretty much saying like, I know it's you, and he goes all in. That's the first time you ever see her really like
personality
reveal herself, right? You see the personality, you see her let the guard down a little bit. And she's continuing to do that now. So I'm wondering if that was like a turning point, and and actually, like going off of what was said earlier about you don't know what's going on with her father or home life or whatnot, she finally has someone to let her in, right? And so I'm wondering, like, if maybe we're thinking too much into that, but that would be if I'm thinking about developing a story, then that's a connection. And then if you want to make that story even worse, or even worse, if you want to take that even further, I should say, down the road, that makes that potential fallout even worse for Peter and her. So
yeah, man,
I think they're playing the long game with her.
Well said, man. I definitely agree.
You see that when they get to the theater, when they actually, they're about to sit down, and Peter says like she looks nice, something like that, and she's like, what? Just because I'm, and then that's like the thing that what we've been seeing for the last, beginning of the movie, and then she slips in and says like, okay, you look nice too. So then we're like, okay, she is nice, and then
No doubt. So, well said, Joe and Chris. And another game I have for you all, and again, everyone in the chat, definitely participate in this, because this is one of my favorite things to do on these watch alongs. This or that favorite Spider-Man film edition. Starting off with
Ooh.
Joe, this is where the debates can begin in regards to just kind of thoughts on your favorite film of this franchise. Let me pull it up here and make sure I have it. Give me 1 second. There we go. So again, starting with Joe, man, I would love to know what is your favorite Spider-Man film out of the ones we've gotten so far. This includes everything: live action, animated with Spider-Verse. So starting with Joe, this or that favorite Spider-Man.
So we're just going like all in.
Yeah, all in, man. Again, from Sam Raimi, Mark Webb, the animated, the most recent ones that we're watching now. What is the quintessential your favorite Spider-Man film?
So the original Spider-Man, the very first, still holds up for me as I think my favorite Spider-Man of them all. But then after that's what really it's funny how that's changed over the years. So like I love Spider-Man, but then I absolutely love the reinvention or the different direction they took with telling such a new previously like I'm thinking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. They never really focused on Miles Morales on film before. They never had brought him up before. So to do that in such a movie like Spider-Verse that is absolutely dynamic and different in every way, and just knocked it out of the park was phenomenal. So that's definitely my second favorite. And then I go Far From Home right after that, just like Leo was saying. I love Far From Home. I love Jake Gyllenhaal in it. I think he carries the movie for me.
Okay.
But it's just a lot of fun. And then after that, I kind of like, my last two are the Amazing Spider-Mans. I'm not a fan of those. I don't think I ever really liked Garfield as Spider-Man, to be honest. And Emma Stone, I just didn't think was right in the role either. So that series just falls apart for me.
No, I hear you, man. And it is sad too, because Andrew Garfield, if you remember some of the behind the scenes during that time, he has a story about Spider-Man. This was like a dream role for him, and it's just unfortunate that he wasn't able to play it out as long as he probably wanted to. We are approaching, and I would love to get your take on this, David, and obviously everyone else on the panel. But this is, I think, arguably one of the best scenes, if you all may agree with me, of any MCU film, and we can definitely kind of analyze it, talk about it, and we'll go back to this. But again, I just wanted to make sure we definitely talk about this incredible sequence. And again, anyone can pitch in. Yeah, you guys can take it off.
I was going to say this is the point where I was like, how are they going to stop Mysterio? Like, how is he going to stop Mysterio? Because there's just think of the mind trip that this is going through. Like, you think it's over, and then it keeps going. And you think it's over, and it keeps going and going and going. It's an incredible scene.
And that's a pretty good suit there, like the one that Mysterio made.
Yeah, it made me a little bit nervous. Like I was like, all right, what's gonna be real and what's not at this point? Like it's like you were saying, David, it didn't stop. It felt like it just kept going and going and going. And now you're just kind of like, all right, wherever he travels, wherever he goes, is this real? Is this Mysterio? It really showed the scale of power and abilities that he actually had. And this was a pretty cool suit too. Pretty good homage to the comics doing the homemade one.
This is well said, Leo, and also David too. I mean, this is fantastic. And we got his classic homecoming suit that he designed himself, which I actually like a lot. But there's so many nods. Again, we get a zombie Iron Man pointing to the kind of the zombie comic book run with the Avengers there, and just so many great Easter eggs within this sequence. And it's just fantastic. And Leo, you said it perfectly, man. This shows you the power ability of Mysterio. I mean, it's almost like having a reality stone. He can create his own reality, and it makes you wonder, like. Again, we'll get to the end sequence when we get there, but how much of all this was real and fake, and it just really trips you out. So on YOLO, Chris, Joe, thoughts on this sequence in regards to, is this one of your favorite scenes of any Spider-Man film and also in the MCU?
Yeah, this scene is amazing. And like I said before, I saw it the first time in a normal cinema, and I was like, oh my God, this is just mind-blowing. Then I saw it on IMAX, and I was like, crap, that was nothing. This on IMAX was just unbelievable. And that's the thing, there's some movies that are worth paying an IMAX ticket, and just this sequence was enough for me to be happy I paid that money. But it's really cool because we still don't have in the comic books, the way he always kind of defeats Mysterio is because he uses his spider sense.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really clever that he didn't have that skill just yet, completely refined, because how we see in the end, it kind of becomes a little bit easier. So it was really cool to see him here struggling and having to kind of learn. And I think that was another thing that was really cool, how they kind of built it up for him to get this new skill. And that was one of the parts I was missing, was getting that evolution of him. But in terms of like the movies, my favorite one is still Spider-Man 2. I think what they did with Doc Ock, and I think it's just still incredible. Yeah. And I think like the way Sam Raimi knows.
Save that thought on Yolo, because there's a question I have about that too in regards to something. Yeah.
I just want to real quick say that train sequence transcends time, man.
Yeah,
it's Spider-Man 2, so I agree with that.
I mean, hey, and David, I haven't forgotten. We'll get back to you when regarding the question I posed to Joe, but that was a question I had, and we could just, again, start with Leo, and we'll wrap around, and I'll make sure to go back to you, David, in regards to the question. But moments, again, and we'll go back to you on Yellow Spider-Man 2, but Leo, man, talk about some of your favorite moments in the franchise.
Oh, man, I definitely got to go to my favorite movie, Spider-Man 2, with the entire train sequence. Just beautifully shot. I mean, even to this day, it's incredibly timeless. And what I love so much about that scene is when Spider-Man finally gave it his all and saved everybody from that train wrecking over the end of the track. They didn't pull out their phones. Nobody pulled out their cameras. Nobody pulled out their notebooks and started taking notes and asking him who he was. They got their guy, their hero up and gave him his mask back. And so to me, it just really established like Spidey was the guy, even though a handful of people knew who he was, they were always going to cheer for their hero. And I love that scene. I come back to it very frequently, even though I don't come back to Spider-Man 2 nearly enough. I love that moment. It's probably my favorite Spider-Man moment of all of them. And then after that moment happened, the other movies just continued to recreate that, as we saw in Homecoming with the ship scene, and pretty much every Spider-Man movie has a moment like that. And it was the tipping point of Spider-Man in film for me. So definitely the train sequence.
No doubt. Yeah. Chris, man, do you have a favorite moment throughout and again, this concludes every Spider-Man film, so that does include Into the Spider-Verse, but is there a moment you'll always remember that scene on the big screen just being like, this is Spider-Man?
Yeah, I just jotted down some quick notes so I can give 3 quick ones from each of the different types of Spider-Mans, but I didn't add in Spider-Verse. But my favorite part of Spider-Verse has to be Spider-Gwen. I just think her swag is too crazy, and it's just too smooth. But I'll go in order. Well, not in order, but from the Amazing Spider-Mans, when Emma Stone dies, like that just hit me, and I was like, "This is happening right now." Like it was, and like he was so close to saving her. Like that affected me. For Homecoming, obviously, it's one of my favorite movies, but just the Childish Gambino scene stood out, and it was just like a real moment of just being funny. And I was like, "Okay, this movie is fantastic." Yeah. And then from the original Tobey Maguire's, what my favorite arc is that, Spider-Man just struggles to make ends meet. Like Aunt May is still poor, and he doesn't use his powers to like get money. And like when Aunt May, maybe it's his birthday, and like it's already sad that he only has the same 2 friends that you mentioned. Like that's a sad moment that you have 2 friends and your aunt that's at your birthday party. They leave. And she tries to give him the $20 or maybe it's $5 or something, and he doesn't want to. It's that I was like, man, if I blink at the wrong moment here, I just might shed one. But those are the 3 different layers that I like of each of the ones.
That's awesome, man. And again, it just goes to show you the power of this character. Even if you don't like the film per se, there's still moments that every Spider-Man film, I think, has had a Spider-Man moment that we can all maybe remember. But again, Joe, same question, man. Favorite Spider-Man moment that you could think of, and again, this includes every movie that we've seen on the big screen so far.
Yeah, I don't know if it's one moment, but all the sequences with Green Goblin in the first 2, I just really, I love Green Goblin. I thought, and Willem Dafoe, come on, like he's fantastic. He's the ultimate crazy villain. Yeah, and he just played it so well. I really, really enjoy how they. I'm trying to remember specifically I think it's a warehouse scene or something near the end, like, or at some point where like there's you see the explosives go in and all that. Like that was just great scene, made all the better because of Willem Dafoe's performance.
Fantastic. And then I'm going to go back again, David. I haven't neglected you. I just want to go because I know Big J started the whole conversation with the best moments. But besides Spider-Man 2, is that your quintessential Spider-Man moment? And then we'll go back to David on both those questions.
Well, so Joe just took the whole opinion out of my brain right now. So you answered for me, man. So, I mean, watching this whole sequence of Mysterio, it really, because I mean, you see a defeated, I mean, like you see him now, you see a defeated Tom Holland. So that goes back to me, the first original, where you see him get his ass kicked by Green Goblin. And that was something that I didn't think they were going to do right away in the first one. Mm-hmm. And you just see him get it, bombed by all these, the explosives and stuff like that. And I love seeing his, suit getting torn apart, and, he was, shedding tears for Ben. And it was like, there was so much emotion in that first movie. That goes back to my, not only just favorite moments. I think my favorite moment would probably be that battle scene with Green Goblin and him, because once again, Willem Dafoe, Jesus, he's still killing it. Willem Dafoe is still killing it.
100%.
So, that scene, just so many dynamics of that, and going back to the movies. I mean, I gotta pick the original Spider-Man, even though I love.
We'll go. Hold on, we'll go back to that point. Aniolo, was that your favorite moment? Did you have any more to say about the favorite moments before we go back to that one question regarding movies?
Yeah, my favorite moments. It's always with the villains. I think that's what makes Spider-Man so great.
Yeah.
And if we look at the movies, we start seeing that the movies we don't like or we like least is when the villains don't work. So when we had the Lizard, it didn't work. The movie wasn't great. When we had Electro, it didn't work. So I think he has to do more with that. So one of my favorite bits is always with the villains, but I love Homecoming, that scene in the car with the Vulture when he finds out that he's the dad.
Yeah.
That for me, I'm a dad. And I was like, oh, you can bet your ass I would be worse than a supervillain if you're taking my daughter to a prom. And I love that bit, that Spider-Man is fighting all these guys, but when he's in the car with the father of his date, and he's like more menacing than any time that he has the suit of the Vulture on. So I love that. But I love all these bits, like we talk off when he wakes up and the arms is controlling him, and he is having that conversation because he doesn't want to be a bad guy. When, I don't know, like the Green Goblin is talking a bit like Willem Dafoe is against the mirror, talking with himself. And he's like, I love when the villains don't want to be the villains, and they kind of are forced to. And I think that's what's so great about Spider-Man is that the villains, and it's kind of like in Batman, the villains are as important as the hero. So all my perfect bits is that, but that Vulture one in the car takes the price for me.
It's a great moment. I was gonna say that was my moment for sure. I love that moment so much. But then within the same movie, Homecoming, when Peter Spider-Man is the rebel, the building is collapsing on him, and you're hearing a kid just screaming for help. He's like, I'm help, and then you're seeing him, come on, Spider-Man. Like that moment to me is just like so great. And just Tom Holland's performance in that moment was so great. But again, it just tugs at the heartstring because he is a kid and he thinks he's gonna die at that moment, but then he has to pick himself up and believe in himself. So I love that moment too, a Homecoming, great moment. But going back to the initial question with the favorite films, going to David because we didn't get your pick, man. I would love to know again the this or that edition of what your favorite Spider-Man movie is, and doing like what Joe did. I guess we could do this for everyone. Like, I guess your top three Spider-Man films, and I'll bring up.
Oh, geez, yeah. Well, I mean, you were talking about it at the top of the podcast that I just started writing them all down. But I mean, shoot, I'll go over the list because I mean, Michael Keaton was going back to the villains. Michael Keaton was fantastic, but I got to go with William Dafoe just overall. But let me see if I can, because I did write this down as you guys were kind of talking about it. So I mean, I didn't write my top. Can I just give like my top, like
go for it, man.
All list? So. Amazing Spider-Mans, I got to put at the top of my dislikes. Just probably the second one is probably the worst one to me. Even though I love Jamie Foxx, that character was just so goofy, and they could have done so much with it because I thought he was a pretty cool villain, but I just didn't think it was executed that well. And then, of course, beneath that is Amazing Spider-Man, and then jumping to Spider-Man 3, which I thought was just very poorly executed, and we have so many characters that I love in that movie. It's just they didn't They didn't execute, Venom. I mean, it was just I was terrible. Spider-Man, and then probably Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2, even though it did have like Doc Ock, like you were talking about on YOLO, it was just I guess the movie overall just wasn't hitting me. And I don't know, something about the newer ones just resonated a little more with me. So Homecoming probably was after that, Spider-Man 2. And then Far From Home. If we're including, appearances, I probably got to go Civil War. And then Into the Spider-Verse. And then I had the original Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire one, as it probably my number 3. And then I got to go number 2, Endgame. And then probably number 1 is the performance of Tom Holland in Infinity War, just for how much heart he put into that movie. And then, of course, the snap or the blip, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the movie just got me. So. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, man, that's a solid list, man. Like I said, there's a lot of films to pick from, and they all have some great moments. So going to Chris, this or that edition, and again, you can do top 3, top 5, or whatever you feel you want to let people know which ones rank high for you in the Spider-Man films.
For sure, yeah. For whatever reason, I can't include the Spider-Verse into this, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's not live action, but
sure.
That's a fantastic movie. But I've ranked the other movies here, and I'll start from the bottom to the best. So worst, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I have that at the bottom. Above that, Spider-Man 3, which was more disappointing because we were so excited to see Venom, and we didn't get cool Venom, and we got the dark Peter Parker, which was not cool. I have The Amazing Spider-Man 1 a bite above that, which I like that movie a lot, but these are good movies.
Yeah.
I have Spider-Man 1 above that. I have Far From Home at the number 3 spot in my top 3. My number 2 is Spider-Man 2, and my number 1 is Homecoming. That's my list. I like what they did with the new stuff. I'm a sucker for the new. I respect classics, but I'm like I like the new shiny a lot of the time. So that's probably like a fatal flaw of mine. But I do love how they came, back to this. He's waiting in the little warehouse, locked in that thing. He's like, "How long has it been?" He's like, 5 minutes. So many things I just love about that. But I just love what they've done with this. And as far as Amazing Spider-Man, I think the biggest problem with those movies, even though I like them, I don't think Andrew, he was just cool. Like Peter Parker was not just a cool kid. He was a
skateboarder and all this. Yeah.
So it's like you made Andrew Garfield not only the smartest kid in class, but also cool. So it's like, what can I do with this? Give me something to work with here. I think that was his biggest flaw, which is like, it's tough to tell this guy, but this is what it is. He's too cool.
Definitely. I think, you said you hit the nail right on the coffin when it came to Mark Webb and that cast. And they were playing to the suave of him coming off of Social Network and a couple other appearances before that. And they definitely played to that he was, a superstar outside of the films. But Leo, man, you could do it like, David and Chris did, or you can do your top 3, whatever you feel like presented, man, in regards to your favorites as far as the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, I was actually writing down my list as they were discussing there because I was like, I want my full list, my full ranking here.
Go for it.
I agree with you guys. Definitely at the bottom, Amazing 2, followed by Amazing 1. I'm going from worst to best, just because, yes, with the reasons you guys said, with Tom Holland, with Andrew Garfield, he just did not give me the vibes of Peter Parker at all. Like I was just like, what's up with the skateboarding? He's doing kick flips, tricks, and going all up on these ramps and stuff, which is cool, and it would be cool for a main character, but that's not my Peter Parker. So I thought that it was just a little bit out of character. The villains were bad. And as we have discussed, the villains of Spider-Man movies are what make them. So those two definitely at the bottom. And then right above that is Spider-Man 3. Didn't like the emo stuff. Didn't like what they did with Gwen Stacy. I was like, okay, she's just a throwaway character at this point. Didn't like what they did with Venom. He was forced, and you can feel it. And didn't really like too much about that movie anyway. Right above that is Spider-Man Homecoming. I did really enjoy that movie, but it just falls below the other Spider-Man movies for me because above that, I've got Spider-Man, the very original, for just that it established Spider-Man as a live-action on-screen character, and Will Dafoe, legendary villain. I mean, just an amazing Green Goblin performance that everybody can remember, and he's still amazing. Loved him in The Lighthouse. So he is still killing it. Right above that for me is our top 3, Spider-Man Far From Home. This one because of Mysterio and how phenomenal of a villain he is. Right above that is Into the Spider-Verse. You gave me the Black Spider-Man for the first time in this animated universe. Absolutely loved it. And I love Spider-Gwen as well, and just all the characters and different Spider-Man they brought in from different universes. And not to mention the animation was just breathtaking. I mean, just 100%. a different style that I'm not used to. It definitely emulated a comic book more than any other style I've ever seen before, with all the different little speech bubbles and the little corner pieces. I mean, it was just very well produced and created. So that's my number 2, right up underneath Spider-Man 2 for the very moment that I had. And Doc Ock was an amazing villain. And what I liked about that one is it saw the loss of powers. It saw Spider-Man lose his powers. It saw him lose that motivation to be Spider-Man, which I think we're going to see in this next Tom Holland installment when he's on the run. There's going to be this lack of motivation, this loss of self. And I love that about Spider-Man 2. I love that it was a rediscovering of character and really learning how to be both Peter and Spider-Man at once. So that's my number 1.
Fantastic list, man. I love it. I love it. On YOLO, man, and also too, before we go on YOLO, I see we got some people that are Sean, top 3, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Verse, Homecoming. Great list there, Sean. We got Dan here. We got Spider-Verse 1, Spider-Man 2, and then Far From Home is number 3. And then let's see, Spider-Man there, and he brought up the Rhino there. That character was I don't know what Mark Webb and Sony was thinking about that one. I don't know what was going on. I don't know at all. But on YOLO, man, top 5, top 3, entire list. Stage is yours, man.
Okay. So like my least favorite one, like for me, movies sometimes like expectations have a lot of. It makes me put movies in a certain place. And for me, Spider-Man 3, I would put it on the bottom just because after Spider-Man 2, that I think is the best one, we got that movie. And for me, nothing works. It's like the stupid dance moves, the stupid like Venom that looks, I don't know what the hell is going on. So watching that movie was really painful because it also like... When you look at everything, like Sam Raimi is one of my favorite directors ever. I think he can, and that's the problem. I think when he gets too much, there's certain directors like Carpenter, when they get too much money, too much stuff, they just don't know what to do with it. And Spider-Man 3 was a mess. So for me, would put it on the bottom. Then I get Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like, I don't know, Electro was just ridiculous. Like there was a lot of stuff that didn't work. Then Amazing Spider-Man 1. I agree with everyone. Andrew Garfield is too cool to be Peter Parker. But I think he was really good as Spider-Man inside the suit, like how he makes the jokes, how he kind of... Because that's what happens in the comic books. When he gets in that suit, he gets confident and he starts making jokes. And I think he did that really well. Then I would probably put this one we're watching, Far From Home.
Far From Home.
Then the original one with the Green Goblin, and then Homecoming. I think Homecoming was like a really good way to start everything over. The villain was cool. I love that part. I don't know who said it before, but that part of him being in the warehouse and like, how long did it pass? 5 minutes. That's just like a kid's. Just bored.
Are we there yet?
Yeah, exactly. So I think, and then for me, it's a tie between Spider-Man 2 and the Spider-Verse. I can't pick between the two of them because, like Chris said, one is live action, the other one is animation. It's not really fair to compare them, but they just like two amazing movies in their own right. So I would put them on the top. Just like it's for me, it's kind of like Seven and Fight Club. They're always changing when we talk about favorite David Fincher. They're always changing. This is the same. Sometimes I would put Spider-Man 2. Other times I would put Spider-Verse. It's always going to be changing for me.
Yeah, it depends on the day of the week. Yeah. Yeah, now the great list, guys, and Joe, I know you started it off with the top 3. I didn't know. Did you want to fill in your rest of your picks there, man?
Yeah, I'm so after the top 3, which is Spider-Man, Spider-Verse, Far From Home, I go Spider-Man 2, Homecoming, Spider-Man 3 before the Amazing Spider-Man movies, because I just did not like those movies at all.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, I'll just keep it nice and sweet. I'll just do my top 3, and that's for me, starting with number 3, Spider-Man 2. Number 2 for me is Homecoming, and Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse. I know it's animation, but to me, it even that strengthens the movie, that I was able to resonate with an animated movie more so than even a live action. I love the live action Spider-Man, there's no doubt. But again, Leo said it with, seeing this, Black Latino character on the screen for the first time, Gwen Stacy, Spider-Ham, Nicolas Cage in a role. I just and again, there's so many moments. The Prowler scene when he finds his uncle, and I just love that film, like top to bottom. So even though it is animation, it might be a cheat. That film just resonates with me so much. I love that film, and I cannot wait. I can't remember who brought up the animation. I think it was Leo. I can't wait to see what Lord and Miller has been talking about. The new animation that they're doing for this is going to make Spider-Verse look like, I don't know, a DreamWorks animation film or what have you. But
like. New animate, like what I'm so intrigued.
I have no idea, but I can't wait. October of 2022 or something like that. I can't wait to see what they're doing with that one and see what world and new characters we get there. So, but again, this goes to show even the bad ones, there's still good moments you can pull out of these Spider-Man films, and it's a great character, no doubt. Alrighty, so again, everyone at home, everyone that's maybe catching this on the replay, just to kind of get you guys up to speed, we are at the pivotal moment where Spider-Man is going against Mysterio's drones. He has Edith now, and we're watching Spider-Man do some Spider-Man stuff, which is always something you want to see. So here, let me pull up the clock again for those at home and those on the replay. We're an hour and 43 minutes into the film, kind of wrapping things up here in the next 20 minutes with this film. But all this stuff just looks visually just great, which I wanted to bring this up earlier and just, again, roundtable style, starting with David. Jon Watts, man, he's a director of this film. He's an indie director. I saw his first film, which is Clown, which I thought was an okay film, but I didn't see Copland or Cop Car. I didn't see that film, but it's just really interesting when Marvel gives these smaller independent directors, Russo brothers, with Black Widow and Eternals, those are small independent directors. James Gunn at the time. It's just Joss Whedon. It's incredible how they pick these smaller independent directors to direct these big blockbuster films. So starting with David, man, Jon Watts, do you think it's more of a Jon Watts vibe of John Hughes kind of with this coming of age story? Do you think it's just the Marvel formula at this point? What's your thoughts on the director Jon Watts compared to Sam Raimi and Mark Webb?
Right. I think Joe had brought it up, the whole meeting on the bridge scene with Zendaya, and that's when I started to feel like, okay, this is something that's actually genuine, like how we got with Ned and Peter's character. It seemed a little more genuine, a little more real to me. So I think it started to grow on me a little more as I watched it. Obviously, it's phenomenal. I mean, from what we're getting, I thought he did a great job because I saw Clown as well. So it's like taking. This being thrown into your lap.
You would never think he would direct a Spider-Man movie after Clown, right? Exactly.
It's probably got to be the biggest pressure, like just having that, thrown in your lap. What are you thinking the night of that you get that news? Right? It's got to be, but I think he did a great job. As far, I haven't seen really a lot of the independent projects other than Clown, like you said.
Yeah.
But I think he nailed it execution wise. Incorporating the drones, I think, was fantastic, especially for this day and age, just since we have them. It kind of shows the extent. I mean, there's the hundreds of them flying all over so it's like the possibilities are, I mean, I don't know if it's scientifically, like, I don't know if this could actually happen, but I mean, it kind of puts that into your mind that this could possibly happen. I thought it was beautifully executed. And, I'm one of the very few, will probably jump to the end, that thinks Mysterio is still alive. And I would love to see. I would love to see him
alive.
Yeah, I would love to see him still be part of this world, the MCU, and I love this. I even though it does have some parts, it kind of up and down roller coaster. I love the action scenes just overall for this movie.
Yeah, no, it's well said, man. Chris says same question, man, in regards to, again, the whole Marvel approach of, just thinking of Jon Watts. I don't know why it's coming to mind, but I'm thinking of Wolverine origins, how they put in a guy, I can't think of the guy's name, Donovan or Gavin something, but sometimes you hear studios, they hire a yes man. They just want to get a up and coming director for they could say, these are our notes, stick to these notes. Kevin Feige does not do that. He gives it, obviously he has stick to these points, introduce maybe some things in later on, but it's your film, Jon Watts. What do you think Jon Watts did to this franchise compared to Sam Raimi, Mark Webb? Just kind of thoughts on the director.
I think one of the biggest things you get in this, outside of the action that Dave really summed up really well, is the comedy and the humor. And I'm just looking up. I don't know those other Jon Watts movies, but I'm looking at the writers of the movie, and one of them being Goldstein. And now I'm looking at Goldstein's work, and he did one of my favorite comedies of Horrible Bosses and Horrible Bosses 2. So now I'm like, okay,
putting the pieces together, yeah.
Line that we got here. So like until 5 minutes ago, I had no idea. So now I'm getting, okay, that's where like the funny comes from, and that's what I love about Marvel, being able to take like an action movie that we love so much and take these funny risks. Like look at Ragnarok. Like who would have thought that we would go from from Thor 2 to Ragnarok, and how much that worked just because of how. Obviously, I'm forgetting Jojo Rabbit's director now. His name
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, exactly. Just because of what he was allowed to do. So to your point, I love that Marvel let the directors like just run with it. And I would imagine that we would probably all not be surprised if they did say, "This is Marvel, stick to this." Like this could be a machine. This is our machine. This is our moneymaker. Yeah, but they're like go, and then and it's proven to work. So yeah, I think that's what really kind of caught my attention on it.
Fantastically said, man. Yeah, like you said, they could have, there's been one or two hiccups. I think of Edgar Wright with Ant-Man. I think of Patty Jenkins with Thor 2. Obviously Scott Derrickson with the new Doctor Strange. There's only a handful of instances where the directors and the creators weren't able to get on the same page. But compared to other studios, again, I'm not bashing DC because, again, Joe, I love me some DC. But we know, I'm just thinking of The Flash. How many directors was attached to The Flash? Rick Famuyiwa, the guys from Game Night. It was like 4 or 5 directors, and they can't get on the same page. But
it was rivaling like the Uncharted movie with all the
or The Crow, right? It was so many people directing The Crow. So going to you, Joe, in regards to this Jon Watts and his direction, do you see maybe some, again, smaller independent films, Clown and Cop Car, I think was the name of, which I didn't see, but I did see Clown. But just your thoughts on the directing of Jon Watts, and just again putting this faith of this big blockbuster Marvel's character. They got Spider-Man back, and letting this independent director direct him.
Yeah, you wanted to see something different, and bringing in an indie director like this definitely gives you something different. He balances all the different feels or all the different angles that this film takes, all the different genres that it touches on, and I think he handles the action very, very well. We'll get to this later probably, but like this movie holds up for me very well. I really do enjoy it a lot.
Yeah. No, well said, man. And the same thing on YOLO. Your thoughts on Jon Watts and just the MC approach of, bringing in a smaller independent director to bring in maybe the indie vibes to their film. Again, I think those independent films work better in regards to character moments. You get to learn from the characters and things of that nature and relate to them. But just your thoughts on their formula of these small directors directing these big blockbuster films.
Yeah, I think this just shows that more than ever, like filmmaking is not a one-man job. It's the team. It's not Jon Watts that's doing the action. Yeah. We saw now with Extraction, the guy that directed Extraction, he was behind a lot of these stunts and these action scenes. Yep. So I think that more than ever, we see that it's a team effort. They just need someone that has like a vision, and then they get to this guy and say, look, I have this really cool idea of like drones that probably is not even his idea. They started on the conversation. Like Chris said, then comes in the writers that have like the comedy. And then you just need someone that knows like how to lead. And I think that's the biggest difference now. Like filmmakers like Spielberg, they kind of had like their finger on everything in their movie, and it was a lot around them. Today, you see these like young creators, and they used to, because a lot of them come from, like, for example, I was talking with some the directors of Becky, and like I don't know if you guys saw their movie, and it's two directors that work together, and I like was saying, oh, why do you always work together in every movie? And they say, oh, we came from animation, and in animation it's kind of like a normal thing for directors to work together. So I think we're seeing this young generation coming in, and they used to doing like things on low budgets, and everyone has to kind of pitch in and they have to give opinions. So I think we're going to see more and more of this, because like there's a plan, and Kevin Feige has everything planned to a dot, but then there's wiggling room there. Like, look, this is where he needs to start, this is where he needs to finish. What's your vision? And the thing with DC, I don't think it's like a question that Marvel has less directors that don't work. I just think they just keep it quieter. I don't think a lot of like the things that we are seeing with the Flash, that we had 7, 8 directors that came in and out, don't happen with the Marvel movies. But I just think Kevin Feige just keeps it quiet. He starts talking with guys and he says, this is what I want. Are you in? No? Okay, I never talked with you. And if you say anything, you're going to find, like, you're going to disappear. I'm going to find you in the middle of a desert. I think that's it. And DC, and the same happens with Star Wars. Every idea they have with Star Wars, they announce it to the world. Oh, we're going to do this. Then they ended up not doing it, and everyone's like, oh, we failed.
Yeah.
Just keeping things quiet, and you see when we have interviews with what's his name that plays the Hulk,
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo. He's the only guy that's always making everyone know what's going on, because everyone else knows it's top secret and you have to keep it quiet. So I think it's going to keep on happening. We're going to have this like
Tom Holland, too.
Tom Holland is the other one, So those two guys that always do it. But I think this is it's kind of going to be the new thing with a lot of these franchises, because they need new blood. They need like people giving new visions, like Star Wars, Indiana Jones that's coming. All these like franchises are going to need new visions, and they're going to go to these guys. But then they're going to have huge teams that are going to help them out with whatever they need.
Yeah, no, fantastically said. I mean, again, I think of Jon Watts. He's a horror director. I think of DC with David F. Sandberg, James Wan, Sam Raimi, Scott Derrickson. So there's a theme there with indie directors. And that's another bigger conversation about independent filmmaking. It's just like if you can get a really good indie film off the ground, you don't know where that can take you. But Leo, man, just kind of again, and also too for everyone at home, we're wrapping up the film here in a bit, and we're getting to these post-credit scenes here in a bit. But yeah, Leo, just your thoughts, man, just quickly on Jon Watts and his direction, and just kind of the Marvel idea of picking out these smaller directors and giving them the keys to the car.
I think Big J hit the nail on the head in that in their movies, they do get a more indie director, but they also do get other people to come in as well.
Yeah.
Like, Chris McKenna was a writer on this movie. He also wrote for Community, American Dad, some big comedy shows.
Yep.
So they really assemble an Avengers to make their movies.
Mm-hmm.
And what Jon Watts brings to the table that Webb nor Raimi, I don't think, got right is the youth of Spider-Man. Spider-Man gets these powers at a very young age, and he brings this coming to age energy to these movies, both Homecoming and Far From Home. Yeah. It makes you feel for the character, relate with the character better, and it gives you a more unique perspective than the other two series have given us. So I just like the coming of age energy that he adds to it. Yeah. I really like the character moments in these movies. They just feel so real. And somebody was saying it earlier, Ned does feel straight up like his homie. Like he feels so legit and so real.
Yeah.
That's what Watts brings to this. There's just this color of real that maybe you got from the Raimi trilogy, but maybe not so much the Webb 2. So it's a really nice, refreshing restart to the Spider-Man franchise. I'm really looking forward to the third movie and where they're going with the Spider-Man, because what Jon Watts has done to it thus far for me has been nothing short of very impressive.
Yeah, no, well said.
I love that bit with Mary J because that's exactly what would happen. No one would like to go on a Spider-Man like flying
around.
like how she's like not enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, well said, man. So, yeah, guys, this is again for those at home. This is the end of the film. We're going to get to these post-credit scenes here in a bit, so I don't want to pose any questions quite yet to the panel. But just as we're seeing these kind of credits run through, and once we get to the post-credit scene, we'll definitely dive into it. But quickly in the comments. We got David bringing up that I'm stoked for Sam Raimi directing Doctor Strange 2. I think you and us all, David. I cannot wait to see what
very much
Sam does, and especially Doctor Strange. He had if you guys remember, I think it was Spider-Man 2. He actually has a Doctor Strange line in there. Briefly, Jameson was bringing up about names, and it was like, oh, what about Doctor Strange? So this is a character that he loves. Spider-Man is one, and then Doctor Strange is two. So very excited to see what he does, and it's going to have some horrific moments with that film, especially if they maybe have Nightmare as the main villain. So can't wait to see what we get with that film. Michael Giacchino score is fantastic. I don't know where you guys fall on scores and all that. I'm a big score guy because I think it's when done right, it really sets the tone for the movie, and it's a character within itself. But what do you guys like Michael Giacchino's score compared to like maybe Sam Raimi's or previous Spider-Man scores?
I think it fits the movie. So I think it very much belongs in this Spider-Man movie. I don't think if this was in a Raimi Spider-Man, it wouldn't fit. So I think I love that it very much establishes the tone and style of this movie, and I like it for this movie. But man, there's something about those Raimi ones that just hit home when you hear that orchestral arrangement rise up in those movies. It's just, I think those were just maybe a step better, but I absolutely love it.
Well said.
Definitely. I gotta agree with that as far as like the orchestral I'll just say orchestra. I can never pronounce that word. Orchestra over like, and this goes back to the I know we're jumping into this scene right here, but like for example, I was watching The Old Guard earlier, and it kind of sucked me out because they were throwing all these like electronic like trap beats like over like the fighting. I was just like, what the hell? Like they could have just there was some scenes that had like more of an orchestra feel, so I was like, why didn't they do that for the whole movie? I didn't understand why they switched it up, but yeah, Sam Raimi for sure.
The score in that movie is horrible. It's like they have it on random on Spotify. And
I agree.
It makes no sense. There's like no sense at all. Like the music, the beats don't even. I don't know what they were doing there.
Yeah.
No.
So very, very big moment here. Chris brought it up a little bit earlier regarding just post-credit scenes and where this lands for everyone. But this is couple big things. So as we kind of see the scene play out, some disturbing footage that switching up everything, switching up his words.
Simmons, man.
This is huge. This is huge. And we're going to get him here in a bit, but this is just, again, Marvel. The word fan service gets thrown around a lot, right? And it comes with a bad kind of note depending on what you are. Game of Thrones does fan service. It's terrible. MCU does it. It's better. It's betterly done. So JK being brought back, I think we can all agree that's perfect, right?
It was such a nice surprise.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, what a way to go out of a movie, just bringing an iconic character back for a quick hit.
Right.
Oh my god.
And what a way to leave us on a cliffhanger before COVID, right? Like,
yeah, but that's what I was gonna say. Imagine this keeps on going on for like a couple of years. Like, let's hope not. And we never know what the hell is gonna happen. I'm gonna be pissed off. Like,
yeah, that post-credit scene is fantastic, guys. So. As the credit, we got another one coming up here too, which is still great as well. But definitely that first one was just mind blowing. But just kind of curious. And again, if you guys, it's 9:21 where I'm at Central Time. Do you guys have, let's say, 25, 30 minutes left, or do we have anyone that has any hard outs?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good.
Cool. So, and this same thing for the people in the chat, man. I'm just curious. We saw we brought him up a couple times. Mysterio. I'm just curious on where you guys fall in regards to favorite villains that we've seen in the Spider-Man films, and kind of where Mysterio might rank for you guys. Regarding, I'm just bringing up a picture here. Give me a second. Regarding where you guys lay on these villains that we got on the big screen so far. starting with what do we have here first on the panel? Chris, starting with you, my friend. From all the live action Spider-Man films we've seen so far, what's some of the top villains for you?
Yeah, I think I wanted
Rhino
Venom to be number one.
I was gonna say that.
The Rhino, it must be the worst moment in Marvel. That should have just been a post-credit scene after the post-credit scene when everyone's at home. But
and don't forget, it was in the trailer. That was even worse.
Yeah.
anyway, I do love all the positive notes you guys put on Goblin. He's great. I love Doc Ock. Based on this, yeah, I love Mysterio as one of the newer guys, but yeah, I like Doc. I like Goblin. I don't like Jamie Foxx. Someone said they liked him. That's fair, but I didn't like him in it, and he gave me very much a Mr. Freeze vibe. And
I think that's what he was channeling. I think like he was channeling his inner Arnold Schwarzenegger for the Freeze.
No one wants that. And Venom was what I wanted to be great, but yeah, I'll go with those.
Fantastic. I don't know if you guys saw recently, some set photos came out for Spider-Man 3, like the initial costume for Venom that they had makes this Venom look like, I don't know, Iron Man or something, because it was terrible. The set, like the actual Venom that they had initially wanted to be on the screen, it was terrible. But Leo, man, yeah, out of these Big J said it earlier, the Rogues Gallery is, next to Batman. You can go column A, column B. He has the best role gallery in Marvel, hands down. But in regards to what we got in regards to the films, who's some of your villains that you always remember, man?
I think for me, the top two are always going to be Doc Ock and Green Goblin. I mean, I would honestly put them side by side as number one because of Defoe and Molina. I mean, they both brought just amazing energy to those villains, and they made us almost come to the movies for the villains more than we did Spider-Man. I mean, they were just so great in their roles, and they portrayed them so well, but they also brought their own energy into the role that really lent to those characters very well. Doc Ock was pretty much straight out of the comic, so I loved Molina's portrayal of him. After that, it kind of just falls to each other one for me. I mean, I would say probably my number 3 is Mysterio, because of the way that for so long through the movie, we had no idea if he was going to be a villain or not. Since this is the MCU, they could have changed him in the way that he was revealed and how he pretty much played that Mysterio to a T, the Mysterio I'm used to, that's over the top, the performer, the one who's supposed to put on a show. I would put him right at number 3, and then a very close number 4 is Vulture, because when I heard that they were announcing Vulture, I was like, Vulture, because I mean, we know how his character design looks in the comics. He's very good.
Old man.
Yeah, he's like got the bald old man crane neck look. So I was like, how are they going to do this? And the way it was executed was amazing. And you get former Batman Michael Keaton to play him, better of an actor to do so. And I mean, he had Spider-Man under the ropes, so he was quite the villain. And then the rest after that, I'm sorry, sloppy. I mean, let's be real here. Venom, wow, that was horrible. I don't know whose idea it was to just green light that, and whoever it was, man, big time mistake.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Sam Raimi said it was a lot of studio interference with that film.
Yeah,
I thought it was
Spider-Man 3 was like a chop shop.
Yeah.
I think Sony pushed him in there, and he only wanted to do Sandman. And then he got dropped into his lap, Venom, and then you rush that in the third act of the movie. Ugh, mess.
So unfortunate.
Topher Grace as Eddie Brock.
As Eddie Brock,
yeah. That was quite the move.
Yeah, definitely something to remember, but not in the best light. But yeah, Aniolo, man, top 3, top 5, number 1 villain for you in the live action Spider-Man films.
Yeah, like number 1 is easy, is Doc Ock. I think like what they did with him is just like it's amazing. It's then I would put Green Goblin. Willem Dafoe is like in that role. He brings the crazy over the top of the comics, but it really fits. It like if it was anyone else, he would probably look silly, but he makes it look amazing.
Yep.
And then I really like the Vulture. I think the Vulture is like, I think it has to do a lot with his motivations. It's just like when he starts and you get that guy that just invested everything, like for his family, all his money, and then he gets taken away because of Tony Stark, and you kind of like, for me, his motivations are stronger than Mysterio. So that's why, like, that father thing, and how in the end he kind of still protects Spider-Man's name because he kind of saved him, like that honor. And I think he's going to be like we saw now in the trailer of Morbius. I think he's going to have a lot more to play here. So I think those three, and then Mysterio are really good. Then I would just put like Sandman. I think he just got in the wrong movie because his performance and even the character design is not bad, but it was just like I don't know what their movie was, and he was just up there. But all the other ones, like, there's no point talking about. I don't know if you guys ever saw like the old Super Mario movie, but like that list.
Oh man.
I bet you whatever you want. They had like an extra costume of the Mario Brothers there, and they said, let's just use this because it's just horrible. Like, it's like I don't know
why you're shitting on that classic film, but
look, it's hilarious. It's like watching The Room. If you watch it in that state of mind, it's funny. But no, the thing is, like, I don't know. It's like their budget just ended because everything else looks great in terms of special effects. Spider-Man, and then we get that. It's like they're like, oh shit, we have no budget for this now. So, and Venom, like, I don't know about you guys, but I really like Tom Hardy's Venom. I think it's a fun movie. It's amazing, like what he plays with it. And that's what I wanted there. And when we got that, I don't know, it was just so bad. And I was looking there. I saw you put the son of the Green Goblin right there in the back. And I think that's where he belongs.
Harry Osborn.
Because, like, I didn't even know what he was doing in the turtle. I don't think no one knows what he was doing there. Because he's like, I'm bad, I'm good, I'm bad. I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, he shows up in the end. And then the Rhino. The Rhino is just amazing. Look, it's I don't know. Like, there's a lot of I think they have great characters to work with, but they didn't do. Looking at this picture now, I'm starting to think there's not very good Spider-Man villains in this movie. There's only like 3 or 4. The other ones are horrible.
Yeah, no, hopefully we'll see what the future, and we'll talk about that here in a bit, the future of the MCU and Spider-Man and the Sinister Six and seeing the Scorpion, which we got in Homecoming, and Chameleon that you had mentioned earlier, and some other iconic villains that I think we'll see later down the road. But yeah, and then right now we're in the midst of seeing Fury on a little vacation at Sword headquarters, intergalactic, this essentially the version of S.H.I.E.L.D. just in space, which obviously can connect to Captain Marvel. Maybe that's who she was talking to when she was kind of going back and forth in Endgame. But going to Joe, man, your thoughts on these villains and kind of your top ranks for the villains there.
Yeah, not much new to add, honestly. It's my top 3 are definitely Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Mysterio. The rest of them are just kind of forgettable for me in these movies, except for Vulture. Vulture was pretty solid. I enjoyed him. I totally agree with Big J too that Sandman I actually really enjoyed, but given what he had around him, he was going to get lost in that film as he did. So, but definitely the top 3 for me are Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Mysterio.
For sure. And then Dave, wrapping this up, man, in regards to your villains, my friend, who you got?
Yeah, I agree with the last 2 guys. But I mean, the Venom in Spider-Man 3 could be comparable to like Juggernaut in X-Men 3. It was so freaking terrible. But yeah, going back to what these guys said, the last 2 guys, I think for me it's going to be Green Goblin number 1, Doc Ock 2, and then Mysterio 3. But it's kind of a tie between Mysterio and Vulture. I think Big J had said it is kind of a split. They were really good characters, and I mean that kind of sets you apart from 2 of the originals to like 2 of the more recent. Everything in between was just not great. So yeah, I think it's like the classics. Well, for us, the classics, early 2000s to like now, probably the better villains. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I'm right on the same path as you guys. But actually, the Vulture is kind of high on my list. Like, he's probably either two, and honestly, depending on the day of the week, because Jay said it perfectly regarding just the motivations of a villain. Obviously, with film, the best villains are the ones that don't think they're doing things wrong. And I think of the scene in Homecoming when he kills the first. What's the villain's name? Shocker. He kills him, and he accidentally kills him. He doesn't intentionally. I mean, obviously, when he kills him, he's like, "Oh, he's dead," but he was like, he didn't want to kill him. So, and Jay said it perfectly regarding his motivations are like, you can see why he's doing what he's doing. Tony Stark took money off. He literally says it in the car, which is why I love that scene. You're taking food out of my family's mouth, and this is if I'm going to kill you if you come across with. And I just love that. And again, Leo said it. It's Michael Keaton, man. I mean, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. I mean, like, Michael Keaton is just fantastic of an actor, and it's just so great to see him back in the comic book world where he kind of took jabs at playing Batman and the Birdman film, but it's great that now he's maybe back as Batman, and we'll see. He's gonna have a busy schedule the next few years. It looks like, if everything plays out with him being Batman Beyond, maybe, and him continue to play the Vulture. I'm not. He's definitely enjoying this part of his life for sure. So. But some great villains, though. Again, I think Spider-Man has, next to Batman, the best rogues gallery of any comic book character. But, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'm just curious, starting with Chris, man, just curious on who you guys' favorite Spider-Man is. I think that was a question that a lot of people might want to know, and I'm just curious where you guys are at with live-action Spider-Mans.
I love Tom. Tom is probably the best overall, but I liked the point that Jay made earlier about Garfield being great in the suit. So, yeah. And I don't hate those movies. I hate maybe number 2, but number 1 is great in the suit, especially, I mean, I think the skateboard stuff, like you mentioned, was kind of random, but in the suit, he was great. So I would go with Tom Holland, but also in the suit, Garfield. And Toby just gets an honorable mention because he's like the OG starter of it. So you just get a thumbs up. Good job starting us off.
Leo, curious, man, out of the 3 live action Spider-Mans we've gotten so far with Toby, Andrew, and Tom, who you got, man?
So I'm definitely going Tom up top. I think he has the perfect combination of the characters of both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He's got that charm of Peter, and when he puts on the suit, he does step it up. The confidence does come out. The jokes continue to slide right off the tongue. So I think he creates this perfect balance that we haven't really got before, because my thing about Toby's Spider-Man is we didn't really get that youth that I think we really needed. And the charm that Holland has is just a little bit above Maguire's for me. I do love Maguire's Peter Parker and Spider-Man as well. I will put him as a very close second. He is the OG. He is the original. He brought Peter Parker to the screen. He really hit the nail on the head with the kind of awkward, shy Peter. So he really did bring that to screen really well. I'm sorry, Andrew Garfield, as soon as they announced that he wasn't Spider-Man anymore, I was ecstatic because I really did not like those movies. I thought he, as we discussed earlier, too cool to be Peter Parker, in my opinion. And like when he put on the suit, like when he first put it on and he was looking for the thugs who killed Uncle Ben, I thought he was being kind of like bullyish. I don't know. I was kind of like, Spider-Man doesn't just go around looking for trouble. And I know that was him with initially in the suit and early on, but for me, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I didn't really do much for me, but the other 2 really love him, especially Tom. He just brings this fresh, youthful energy that I think the Spider-Man movies never had, but now do, thanks to him and thanks to Marvel.
Yeah, well said, man. Love your reasons why, and that's some good reasons, man. So yeah, on YOLO, man, out of our 3, we got Tomei Maguire, a mixture of high school, but in the college, more adult version. Andrew Garfield, again, I don't know what they were trying to do. He was in high school for like 2 seconds and, all that stuff. And then Tom is the essence of the character from the comics, really, in regards to just the young man with the day-to-day problems. He doesn't have Avenger-like, he's not an adult. He's not married. He doesn't have kids like Hawkeye maybe, but he's a kid in high school and wants to go to prom. So what's your favorite Spider-Man, man?
Well, as a whole, I think Tom does it does it better in both sides. But like I said, I like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man when he's inside the suit, because Tom makes a lot of jokes, but the jokes are like, if you read the comics, the jokes he uses during the fighting because he wants to distract people, because he usually has villains that are stronger than him. So he uses that as a distraction to get them mad, to get them like just on the edge. And I think that you saw with Andrew Garfield, and with Tom, you see it in Civil War when he's fighting.
Captain America.
Fighting? No, he's fighting
Bucky and Falcon.
Yeah, Falcon and Bucky, and you see that he's like making jokes and he's getting them angry and they making mistakes. And then I think it was the best of Tom inside the suit when he's doing the fighting and stuff. Like Tobey Maguire, I love the movies, but I never bought him as being a kid. It just looked like, he always looks like he's grumpy and he's like, I don't know. The best things with him works when he's like trying to find how to use his powers, and he's doing all that thing with his hands. I think that's my favorite bit with him, because he always looks too old for the role. So I would say Peter Parker, Tom, Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield. But as a whole, I think Tom is doing a great job because he has that kid factor that like we never got with Andrew Garfield, because I completely agree. He was a skateboarder, cool guy. Yeah. He was slick with the girls, talking with the girl, like he never had problems, like flirting and stuff. And I think that was the biggest issue there.
Yeah, I mean, he's the co-creator of Facebook, so I mean, it comes with that swagger. But yeah, Joe, same for you, my friend, regarding these three different interpretations, different age groups too of Spider-Man, like literally actors. I think Tobey Maguire, what was he, 27 when he got hired? I think it was 25 for Tom, or for Andrew, and then Tom, I think was 20, like 19 or 20 maybe. But yeah,
but he looks 15. That's the thing with Tom.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, just what everyone else said, honestly. I had nothing new to add there either. I think we talked about it with Tom Holland being, I think the representation of what or who Peter Parker is supposed to be. He plays that child side. He plays like the innocent, goofy, will bump his head on a bell while he's flipping around, is not great with the ladies, all that. But then when he gets to the physical, it's, I love that you're seeing like a kid trying to figure out like what he's doing, flying around fighting these villains. And he's done that from the very first appearance in Civil War all the way to now. So definitely him. Garfield, I didn't care for. Not much to say there. But Tobey Maguire is my original. He's my OG. So I always, he looks like a 40-year-old man playing a high schooler. But I did enjoy those movies, and really that was like, we don't have superhero movies if we don't have those movies.
Very true. Yeah, it's very true. And wrapping this up, David, your favorites, regarding who knows, Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi, Doctor Strange 2, all the possibilities are open, man. But yeah, just curious on who your favorite Spider-Man is.
And it seems like there's a lot of ageism going on because people are just hating on my man Toby, man. Who cares?
Old man.
No, I understand the lore of the comic book and stuff like that, and that's fine. But I think in that moment in time, most of us grew up with Toby, and we didn't even really question it. I mean, maybe YOLO did, but like I remember being like, I was in high school when this came out, and I was just amazed to see what was going on. I think his age was like at the back of my mind, until later on in life. But yeah, I agree to the extent. I mean, you have to throw someone that's younger to kind of get those feels of the high school vibe, right? So ultimately it had to be recasted as someone younger. So that's why Tom Holland is kind of the ultimate Spider-Man for me. I mean, we've only seen two movies. Two movies, solo movies, and a lot of appearances and stuff. And I see great things for him. I mean, Toby would be a close second, of course, because he grew up with him, even though the third film was the worst to me. But, it's not his fault. He did what he could, emo and all, and that dance that we can never forget, right? So, but Tom Holland overall is probably the best Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm right there with what a lot of you guys have said. I think just Tom Holland as an actor, he does backflips. He has the attributes of a Spider-Man. And then I just think about that story. Like I feel bad for him when Sony and Marvel had that kind of divorce moment. Like he cried to Bob Iger's or that was kind of cleared up. He maybe didn't cry, but he called Bob Iger's. Really wanted to be Spider-Man again, and that speaks a lot to me that he wants to play Spider-Man. And I love that Marvel casted him at a young age because, again, kind of a Harry Potter approach. We're seeing him, junior, senior, going off to college, so we can be with this character for the next 10 years, and he won't look like, Aniolo said, he looks like he's 15, so when he's 25 he's going to look like he's 20, and so on and so forth. So I think he embodies the character, and he can still grow in the role. Again, Aniolo kind of brought it up, some of the faults that he has with the film, but the potentiality of this character for Spider-Man 3, and who knows what happens with Marvel and Sony after the case, but we're still going to hopefully have him in the role, and we get to see him continue to grow in that role. So a lot of great stuff. But again, Tobey Maguire is the OG, but yeah, Spider-Man for me is definitely Tom Holland. So don't want to neglect the chat. And some people talking about, David brought up the Doctor Strange thing, which I'm excited for. Talked about Michael's score, love both post-credit scenes. I reckon the Beyonder and Doctor Strange 2 as they bounce around. That would be cool. The Beyonder is definitely a cool character, and I think Jeffrey Wright's going to be voicing him in the What If series, so that'll be cool. Still kind of wish Derrickson was directing the horror aspect with the Nightmare, but Sam Raimi's great. I mean, literally, it's like there's no other replacement. Like that is literally a fantastic replacement. It's almost a perfect Spider-Man film. I assume Robert was talking about Far From Home. We talk about the orchestra, awesome post-credit scenes. In fact, you're hearing it right now. I marked out, but yeah, that again, the Alex, yeah, that's a really good too. That we were talking about technology earlier. That he's like the Alex Jones of the universe. That he's kind of the, doing these little quick bits of news. The Prowler is just too good. They need to make him a main villain. Yeah, I mean, Chris brought it up earlier. The Prowler is technically Gambino, childish Donald Glover. He's still out there. I would love to see him make an appearance in maybe the next Spider-Man film. And then we got Sean talking about his top villains, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Vulture. Keaton really owned the Vulture. Definitely agree there. Rhino, again, loved him in the PS4 game for sure, when he was a massive guy, and also Doc Ock's in the film. The game is class. Yeah, definitely that. There's a deep step in top 5 for the rest of the villains. Alrighty, and then more people talking about Rhino and the Lizard. Yeah, those villains, I don't know, man. That was Amy Pascal and Mark Webb and everyone over there. I don't know what they were doing with those villains there, but at least you get those villains to know not to do that, right? Learn from your mistakes. Come around Tom Hardy as Venom. All righty, cool. So another thing, I'm just super curious about this from you guys, because we've kind of dropped hints at this particular notion regarding villains and role galleries, and I'm just very curious because correct me if I'm wrong, but would you guys agree that Batman's the most popular DC character and Spider-Man's the most popular MCU character? Am I mistaken in saying that? Am I wrong saying that?
I would say,
I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate.
On DC, I think so. Just like I think Batman, and you just see from the amount of times they just do movies with him. I think on DC, Batman is for sure. On the MCU, if we talk about the MCU, yeah, probably. But if we talk about the whole thing, I think Wolverine probably gives them a run for his money because it's just one character that everyone knows and everyone loves.
Okay. Well, we could definitely do that. At least Spider-Man's top, popularity wise, he's had the most films compared to Wolverine in the live action with that. So I'm just kind of curious to kind of another this or that edition of just looking at the movies, looking at the characters, looking at 8 films from Spider-Man and 8 films minus, I didn't put Batman and Batman and Robin on this list because I think that's the worst film out of any one of these characters. But
you just took my favorite away.
I'm just curious, starting with Chris, man. If you look at these 8 films, and I got both animated films in there and the most popular ones, which franchise is your favorite and has the best films within the franchises between Spider-Man and Batman?
Anyone who uses Batman will have that be the hot take of the live, but obviously Spider-Man has a better collection. There's no
Yeah.
Maybe one terrible one, but you got Batman Forever. You got the Lego Batman's great, but that doesn't really count. The original Batman, those are great movies, but they don't really hold up even maybe to Spider-Man 1. And it's crazy because you just mentioned Keaton and you want to get nuts, let's get nuts. And when Spider-Man came off on my TV, now Batman 1 is now on regular television. So it's crazy that the universe is here. But
yeah, man.
So I'm voting for Spider-Man no matter what, but I will say that Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises are the best 2 movies on this whole thing.
Ooh. Okay. Leo, following that up, my friend. Again, these collections of films, these 2 iconic characters in the films that we've gotten so far, who has the better set of films, and which are your favorites?
Spider-Man for me. I mean, Spider-Man was the launch pad into superheroes for me. So I think there's just a little bit of personal bias there. But I mean, for everything that Chris said, the Spider-Man movies just, to me, stack up a little bit better. And when you look at each of them, you can point out ones that are bad, but man, you already pointed out Batman and Robin. There's been some goose eggs over on the Batman and the things. And I think when it comes to origin stories, I like Spider-Man better than I liked Batman Begins. But I do love The Dark Knight a lot. And I would say off of this list, that and Spider-Man 2 were both at the top for me. But I got to go Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man, for me personally, just has done a lot for me in terms of the superhero media. And I think that there's just this continuous breaking of the mold for Spider-Man. I mean, you've got a young Spider-Man and Tom Holland, and then to bring it into the Spider-Verse, which was just a fantastic animated film period and was revolutionary for animation. I think Spider-Man continues to just break the mold more and continues to be and feel more refreshing every single change. So I'm going Spider-Man.
All right, we got 1 Batman, 1 Spider-Man on YOLO. Who you going with, man?
Yeah, as a set, I don't think there's much discussion. I think it's Spider-Man as a set. But my favorite movie of all of this, and this probably is a hot take for a lot of people, is Batman Returns. I love that movie.
That is a hot take.
I absolutely love that movie. I think Catwoman, the Penguin are perfect. It's just amazing movie. Because the thing is, if you're making a Batman movie, that's a Batman movie. Because The Dark Knight for me is not a Batman movie. It's amazing. It's probably the best movie all year, but it's not the best Batman movie for me. It's more that gritty, real world, but that's not Batman. Batman is needs to be more like a comic book movie. And I love what Tim Burton did there. It's just one movie that I watch all the time, and I think it gets a lot of crap that it doesn't really deserve. And then someone said Batman Lego doesn't count. That movie is hilarious. That scene of Batman at Home Alone with it's just and the Joker, that love story. Look, for me, it is at the same level of Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Because it's so funny. I love that movie.
I think that might be the hottest take of the stream tonight, guys.
Yeah.
With Batman Returns, and I love it. I love it on YOLO. Because that film, that's definitely, you mentioned that's Batman to you. I definitely respect that. To me, that's more of a Tim Burton's version of Batman, more so than the Batman that I would have envisioned. But definitely love that take, man. But yeah, Joe, same question to you, my friend, regarding these films. The best set of films for you personally.
Where to begin? We wouldn't have gotten Spider-Man if we didn't have the first 2 Batman films from Tim Burton. We wouldn't have gotten the first 2 Batman films if we didn't have the success of Christopher Reeves' Superman in the past.
Yeah.
Like it or not, DC started superhero movies. They haven't succeeded quite as much as Marvel has, but they started it. To Yola's point about the dark and gritty Dark Knight and that not being Batman, I would argue that that's the truest form of Batman I've seen on screen. Because Batman is an angry old man. He's an angry man that has set his entire course of life based on the fact that crime took his parents away. And that's, what I really liked about the psychological play we had with the Joker and Heath Ledger playing that role. If you're looking at all the movies together, they're all very different, right? You have basically three sets of origin stories in a way with the Spider-Man films. And I'm keeping Spider-Verse out of that a little bit because that's a completely different story than the other, the other three sets that we have.
Right.
But then with Batman, we also have, it's the same thing. We've seen the beginning of Batman over and over again. But all of the Spider-Man movies were trying to accomplish the same thing in terms of the storytelling and the type of character that Spider-Man is. Batman, you see gritty versions that are more focused on the story. You see commercial versions, which is why we got the Schumacher, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, where they just wanted like McDonald's to be able to sell toys and all that jazz. So there are different motivations there.
For sure.
I don't know. I mean, there's duds in both, right? Like looking at this list right now, I think that Spider-Man has more duds to me, but Spider-Man also has more solid movies to me as well. Like I said it before, I think the Amazing Spider-Man movies were complete flops. And I think the third Spider-Man movie was horrendous. And so, you look at what they're doing well, but they're also not standing on their own with the two that we got with Homecoming and Far From Home. In terms of them being good movies, yes. In terms of them being closed stories, no. They're not just the Spider-Man story. They're intertwined. They're completely Marvel, driven in terms of the MCU. But if you get to the Batman stories that we see on the screen, they're all trying to get to the core of him.
Yeah. No, this is a great point, Joe. And I'm curious, David, after hearing him out in regards to his thoughts on it and everyone's thoughts so far. I'm super curious. I know you're not the DC guy, but I know you've seen you've seen most of these Batman films at least. Maybe not the DCEU, but just your personal take on these sets of films and which ones do you personally like the most?
Right, and that's funny that you initially had said, what is the stronger property? I would say, even though I'm not a fan, I would say Batman is probably the more spoken, like people know Batman probably in the world than maybe not Spider-Man, but like it's just I don't know, it's something about Batman most people know than the movies themselves. But like maybe that goes back because these movies go back to the 80s, or like even predate that with the show and whatnot. But it's funny that we're talking about this because I am constantly on a daily basis arguing with a coworker who's a DC fanboy, and he knows how much I love Marvel. I'm not gonna say I'm a Marvel fanboy because I don't know it through and through, the lore 100% with the comics and all that, but he always refers back to Joker and the Nolan trilogy. That's it. That is completely it to me. Like that's all that they have. So when I never hear anything about Batman Begins.
That's all that's all that he has.
Yeah, of course. But Batman Returns, like I never hear anything about the Keaton. I don't hear anything about Clooney. I don't hear about anything, previous that. Sure. Not even Lego Batman. So that was a movie I didn't watch, but I did see the Lego movie. But yeah, it's I don't have any gripes with the, I'll go back to Agnolo. I actually really enjoyed Batman Returns. I grew up on it, Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, like these characters were something that we grew up with, but do they age well? I don't think so. I don't think they age as well as the start of Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. And maybe that's because it was, decades later or whatever. But I think if we're going off of this list, I got to go with Spider-Man. But I think for some reason, I think Batman is more of a household name than Spider-Man. I mean, and even some regions of the world where they don't even know any of these, I still think they would know who Batman is for some reason.
Yeah,
what I mean?
I think they did a poll. I think Batman and Superman are like the most iconic, like
there
superheroes globally speaking, that people recognize them more than any other figures in pop culture. But for me, this is a tough one. You guys have made some great points. I'm just looking at the list of like, okay, the best film from Spider-Man, best film for Batman, and the worst two films. And also, you said it perfectly, David. They're product. Some of them are a product of their times, in my opinion. I love the OG '89 Batman and Returns. I don't love. And then you even look at Sam Raimi's. Like I just revisit those not too long ago, and they can transcend time and certain moments. Leo brought it up, that train scene, but some of the stuff still feels like early 2000-ish filmmaking. So I think of Nolan. I think his films. Definitely 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I think that they resonate with me just because of, again, I know Agnolo brought up the groundedness and the grittiness, but to me, that kind of, it's a subgenre in regards of a mafia, gritty, suspenseful kind of, drama to a sense, and maybe not necessarily a superhero film. So I think I'm going to go with Batman on this one. And that also goes because Batman's my favorite superhero. So a little bias there towards that choice there. But no, you guys, two great franchises, two great characters. And, they both have a lot of hits and some misses as well. So yeah, I knew certain vids was going to go with Spider-Man because that's his favorite superhero, if I'm not mistaken. So what else do we have here? We talked about Rhino. I'll come around. Tom Hardy's Batman, or Venom. All righty, cool. So
no one like Mr. Freeze, huh? You need to chill out.
Man, I would love to see Arnold maybe make some, just like J.K. Simmons is coming back as, I would love to see Arnold some way make an appearance in a DC film. And with Flashpoint, maybe we get a small cameo of Mr. Freeze. I think that would blow the roof off the theater.
I'm down for it.
Batman versus Robin. Batman and Robin last week, and TV, and like Poison Ivy makes.
Oh,
but she's like, yeah, I'll grab your jewels, and I'm like, oh my god.
90s comic book stuff, guys. And just curious, we didn't really wrap up, but there's like final thoughts on Far From Home, but just as kind of a all-inclusive type of just wrapping it up in regards to just question with final thoughts on Far From Home, and then which one did you prefer more, Homecoming or Far From Home? Starting off with Chris, again, just your final thoughts on Far From Home, and which film that you prefer more?
Yeah, I was, like I said in the beginning, I was just more impressed that Far From Home could even hang with following up Endgame. So I gave it a lot of brownie points for doing that in a time where we didn't kind of know how that phase would end up. So I was really impressed with that. Between the two, I prefer Homecoming as an overall film, but it's impressive when you have such a strong start with Homecoming to then follow that up as a sequel with a good movie, because we all know how sequels go, especially, it's sometimes not the best in the MCU. So I vote for Homecoming, but very, very impressed with Far From Home, and awesome seeing it again today with you guys. Definitely.
Great pick, man. And Leo, man, same with you, man. Just kind of thoughts on Far From Home, and then which film do you like so far in the set of the films that we gotten so far?
I've gone back and forth several times. I almost want to say they're 1A and 1B because they're both just so good to me. They both have great villains. I do think Vulture did have a little bit of a better motive, but for me, Mysterio, just the way that Jake Gyllenhaal brought him to life just sat better with me a lot more, especially going back and watching this the second time. And that scene in the construction zone was nuts. Going back and watching that again was an absolute pleasure. I got to go with Far From Home. I mean, it was just a great follow-up to Homecoming. I did love that Homecoming warehouse scene, which is actually pulled from when Spider-Man needs to get the cure to Aunt May, and the whole world is just toppling over on his shoulders. I thought they did such a fantastic job of bringing that scene to life in Homecoming. Mm-hmm. But I think that Far From Home just takes the edge a little bit more for me, just because of the suit, the moments with Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, and the growth of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So I just got to go with Far From Home, but just ever so slightly. Homecoming is right there.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Same thing, David. I mean, financially speaking, Far From Home it's the most money that any Spider-Man movie has made. It's following up, as Chris mentioned, it's following up Endgame. So it was a lot of pressure there, but then also Homecoming had a lot of pressure within itself. It's the first, another Spider-Man origin. How can Tom Holland carry this film? So final thoughts on Far From Home, but again, what's your favorite out of the two?
Yeah, two great movies. I mean, like you said, financially, Far From Home did it. I mean, that's just riding the wave off of Endgame, right? And I mean, we've seen Marvel has had like the a great like last 5 years, just back to back, just putting out so many films per year. That's why it's so somber, like just seeing what COVID's doing to these movies, putting everything on hold. But out of the two, like I like the, you know, like is it Geekly Goods? Yeah, you said you know, kind of 1A and 1B, you know, like it's very hard. It's almost like, for me, it's like a Terminator 1, Terminator 2. Like they're both great movies, but to me the sequel just somehow surpasses it just a little more, because you take it out of its element of New York City, the typical, you know, and you see what he gets to do with that. But I think Mysterio just pushed it over to the next level as far as the villain goes, just with so many optics, just, you know, flashing in front of you. You don't know what's real, you don't know what's not. Plus we got to see a little more growth with MJ, and I think that's, for me, someone that did not like Zendaya in that role pushed it over the top for me, liking the movie more, because I kind of grew to love her towards the end, especially when they started working so close together like a team unit. It wasn't just him and Ned, it was him, Ned, Flash, and then everybody was working together pretty much. So I think that's why I liked Far From Home overall a little more.
All right, Far From Home's taking it so far. Joe, are we going to mix it up and show some love to Homecoming, or it's kind of more the same? And also, like I said, final thoughts with the film as well.
Yeah, it's more the same. I think the thing that I really like is that with Homecoming, you see a very grounded Spider-Man film, in that the villain, I think, reflects the point in which we meet Peter Parker, and we see like how he's coming into his own and trying to figure out who he is. So he's in New York City, and the threat is closer to home. The threat is more human. But after all the shit he's seen and all the stuff that he's done, he leaves New York City for this school trip and runs into Mysterio, who really takes things to another level. And it's not a knock on Michael Keaton, because I think Michael Keaton was a great Vulture. I just like Mysterio as a character much more as well. And I think that, you know, if it could have been like 1 or 2 degrees off of it being a total flop for me with Mysterio, but I just think they delivered really well by incorporating what we've seen in the MCU into that character and really kind of taking us on in a new direction. So I think they build off of one another really well. I definitely agree with Chris there. It's great seeing a sequel that's able to deliver. But I think I think that's part of the plan. They both are movies that are intentionally have intentionality behind them based on where we see Peter Parker and where he needs to go by the end of the film.
That's great, man. And I think you just hit the nail on the head in regards to sequels, right? Marvel Phase 1, Phase 2. I think of, no disrespect to people that like these films, but Iron Man 2, Thor 2 really didn't work. But then Winter Soldier, you know, Thor Ragnarok, you know, they're starting to kind of get a better idea of who these characters are, that they're further into the MCU. So I think sometimes with the beginning stages of the MCU, Iron Man 2 and Thor 2 kind of suffer from still kind of learning and building the world. So it kind of affected the films, you know, Iron Man 2 throwing in the Avengers stuff, Thor 2, the same thing with the Infinity Stone, with the ether. So, but the sequel, this is a really good sequel. I think this is my second favorite individual sequel behind Winter Soldier. But Agnolo, just kind of curious on your thoughts on which film is better for you, and then just kind of final thoughts on Far From Home.
Yeah, so I prefer Homecoming. Like, I just think it's a little bit smaller, is a little bit more focused on Peter, and I think that's exactly the movie we needed at the phase that it was. This one, like, Mysterio is great, but again, I like that connection that he has with the Vulture, like that respect that the Vulture gives him up in the end, all that kind of like the arc of Peter. I think it's a bit more interesting in Homecoming. But I think they're both great, and I think they did something that's very hard to do. They had to restart the franchise, a character, like, and they didn't felt the need to go to the same villains that was like sure hits. They could have gone to the Green Goblin again. They could have gone to the ones we saw that people would recognize straight away. But they went to like someone was saying before, they went to the Vulture. That's probably anyone that heard, oh, the next villain is going to be the Vulture. First, most people didn't know it. And the people that know it was like, oh, crap, that old guy in that green suit. what the hell is going on? So I think they had a lot of guts, and I think that's what Marvel is showing, is that they don't care to go after a challenge, and that's why I'm sure the next villain is going to be Craven, because it's another character that on paper is like, what, that guy, that weird Russian guy that hunts people, like what? So I think that was like their biggest thing, especially with the Vulture, was that they kind of found a way. They showed everyone that we are not afraid of picking up a weird character and we're making it really cool. So that's why I prefer that one. I think Far From Home had an easier job because, yes, he came after Endgame, but the first movie, Homecoming, I think they had to prove that they could do a Spider-Man movie after everything we saw before. And I think they did a great job with that. So I would give it to Homecoming, but like everyone said, it's very close. It's two great movies. It's not like there's a big difference there. So, but Homecoming is my favorite one.
Yeah, I'm and to follow out, everyone's saying Far From Home, fantastic film, great sequel, but I'm with Unyolo. I think of Homecoming, and David mentioned earlier, like kind of this hidden home run after home run. If I'm not mistaken, I think Homecoming, it was Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which I liked, but it was kind of a letdown to a certain extent from the first Guardians of the Galaxy. But it was Homecoming. Yeah. I think it was Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Infinity War. It was just like boom, 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 boom. And I think Homecoming really kicked it off. So, and like Unyolo said, I love the motivation of Vulture. Personal connection. I actually prefer his motivations in regards to how he was created by Tony Stark. Again, taking food from his office table versus the barf thing. Like, Quentin Beck was already probably successful because he was working for Tony Stark, where, you know, Vulture was kind of on a ground level, have his own construction company, have to help these other people feed their families. So I just thought and then that scene again in the car was just so fantastic. So Homecoming for me, but it's a really close race. They're two great films, and it goes to show again that Marvel, I think, is doing a good job with this character. And we're gonna kind of wrap things up in a little bit in regards to the next film and next creators and all that, but just kind of on a side note, I'm just kind of curious because I've had some of you guys on the Infinity War and Endgame watch along, but you know, I didn't have Chris and Leo, so I was still like, I would love to know you guys' thoughts, especially moving forward. We were 3 months ago to where we are now, but Leo, or Chris, just kind of curious, man, your thoughts on the excitement level of the future of the MCU. Are you a little nervous about some of these smaller characters, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Blade, Mahershala Ali? We haven't heard much about that, but I'm just kind of curious on you taking the future of this juggernaut.
Yeah, for sure. I'm confident in the future of the MCU, but I'm also kind of understanding that I don't think it could be better than what I've seen in the last 2 years. So that's like a little downer for me, especially like looking at this list, you know, Black Panther 2, which will obviously be fantastic. That's not coming out until like 2030, you know, and you know, now with COVID, you know, we might go a whole year without a Marvel movie because we were waiting for Black Widow and I believe Strange, or was that for sure next year? I don't know. I don't remember, but
next year.
Yeah,
right. So we were already going to have a down year, but I just see like, you know, with these, you know, these kind of delays pushing things way further. So like, I'm confident that these movies will come out and be great.
Yeah.
But I'm also, you know, I don't think that they will be as good. And I'm also kind of bummed that it will be so long before I can see the Black Panther, before I can see Captain Marvel 2, before I can see the new, you know, the new Love Thor movie.
Yeah, like, Love and Thunder, Guardians 3. Yeah,
I feel like it's so far away. I'm just like, and we've been waiting so long. So
yeah,
it will be fine. But like, when will it be? That's where I'm at.
For sure. The same question to you, Leo. Just kind of curious on your thoughts on this next phase, which I'll get to my points. I'm very excited for it, but I'm just kind of curious on your excitement level. Are you kind of like with Chris, kind of nervous? You know, we're starting off with Black Widow, a character we've seen before, and obviously the big gripe with that is too little too late type situation. But just kind of curious on your thoughts on Phase 4, excitement level, maybe not so excited.
I mean, I love the MCU movies. I generally have fun in them. There are a couple of them that I thought were a little bit dud-ish, but Marvel has proven time and time again that they can make really good movies with this formula. I'm a little cautious because just how good the Infinity Saga was. It's just gonna be so hard to top that, and the 10 years of building, 11 years of building that went into making that saga. It's just going to be very hard to top. And as a kid, I read a lot of Masters of Kung Fu, so I'm really looking forward to the Shang-Chi movie. I hope it's going to be like a martial arts film, though. Let's give these films a little bit of an individuality. Like, let's not make them all like, oh, they all have to have the same tone as Spider-Man. They all have to, like, no, I want that to be a martial arts film. I want that to feel a lot like Drunken Master. Like, I need that to feel like a martial arts movie for me to walk out happy with that movie. And Chris, you bring up a good point. Even though the delay, nobody saw it coming, and coronavirus happened, it still is a delay. And I'm feeling a little bit like, all right, where's my Marvel at? Because we were supposed to be looking at both Black Widow and Eternals this year. Yeah. So I was really looking forward to getting that kind of first group up movie since Endgame, seeing how Marvel initiates that. Yeah. But I'm still very excited. I can't wait. Very much looking forward to Shang-Chi, Black Panther 2, the next Thor. Like, the list is stacked, locked and loaded. Yeah. I do think Black Widow is a little bit late. I think that could have been in Captain Marvel's place, but I am excited for it nonetheless. I've always wanted a Black Widow solo film, so I'm looking forward to it, but with just a little hint of caution as well. I'm a little bit nervous.
Yeah, no, I think kind of going on Black Widow now, the whole little too late thing, I think this might be controversial, but knowing where Marvel is with the TV shows, I'm surprised that they didn't give her a Disney Plus show versus this, especially now that it's been delayed like 3 or 4 times, and the whole news with Florence Pugh replacing her. So I don't know if we'll see. I'm super excited for it. Jason Bourne, Winter Soldier vibes, but I don't know if it would have maybe been better as a Disney Plus show at this point now. But yeah, on low. Big J, looking at this list here, just again, I think I remember your statements from when we did the Endgame watch along, but just kind of curious on, fast forward 3 months later, are you still excited for this phase and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, first of all, I have to say to you guys, you're all spoiled because I had to wait 10 years between each comic book movie, and most of them were crap. Okay. So, now everyone says, "Oh, we're gonna be a year without a comic book movie." Oh, you guys don't know how lucky you are.
We've been so used to 3 Marvel films for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I know, but you don't know how lucky you are. So I don't know. I'm a bit different from everyone else. I get more excited by the new ones than getting franchises, sequels. So I want to know what Shang-Chi is going to be like. I want to know Eternals. I'm more excited about those than I am about Thor: Love and Thunder, because I love Thor Ragnarok, but I love seeing how they kind of bring those characters from the comic books into the movies. So for me, the more new stuff they make, the better. And that's why Marvel has so many superheroes that I think, the Infinity Saga was amazing. It's probably not going to be any better, but look, it's that thing. It's kind of like pizza and sex. It's always good, even if it's not as amazing. But I'm still going to see all of them on the first day they come out, and even if they crap, I'm going to come out and just say, well, that wasn't good. But if they say, oh, tomorrow there's a sequel, I'm going to be there again. So that's the thing. They have my money until they decide to stop doing these movies. Yeah. They have my money. So I'm excited about seeing the Eternals. Doctor Strange, I'm more excited now because of Sam Raimi, that I think he can make something very, very original. Yeah. And Captain Marvel, Black Panther, it depends also on what the story is going to be, who they're going to bring. If they're going to bring Namor in Black Panther, I'm probably a bit more interested. If they're going to bring back the same characters and doing the same thing because it was a hit the first time, fine, I'm still going to see it, but it's not what excites me. So I want to see what they can do different. I'm really excited about Blade. Blade is the one on top of my list because I'm a huge Blade fan. So I want to see how Blade is going to be in this new MCU. I want to see that. I want to see the Marvel shows. like What If. The What If is something I really want to see because it's like different. We're gonna see different stuff. So those are the ones I'm more excited about.
For sure. No, so this is definitely some things to look forward to. And yeah, Joe, same question for you, man. Regarding this excitement level, I think Aniello said, these new characters are definitely interesting. We got a bunch of sequels. We don't know much about Blade yet, but Black Panther 2, Namor, maybe the introduction of Storm, maybe, and maybe that's an entry point for the X-Men. And speaking of X-Men, Phase 4, Phase 5, maybe that's the next Thanos type level of excitement, maybe for Fantastic Four, X-Men. I mean, the future's looking bright, but I'd love to know what your excitement level is for Phase 4, man.
Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing the X-Men sooner rather than later, to be honest. I think we're going to start seeing at least hints to them or references.
Yep.
But Black Widow, I'm looking forward to. I think I've been looking forward to that movie. It's very late. The Black Widow movie she should have had her own movie years ago, but I'm happy that it's actually happening. Eternals is one that I'm really pumped about because I really like the cast. I'm a really big Richard Madden fan, so I'm happy to see that he's making his way into the MCU. And Angelina Jolie, as kooky as she can be in her personal life, is
fantastic actor. Yeah.
So I'm pumped to see her in the role as well, and I think that's going to open things up in new directions. But just kind of like Yola was saying, all of the new characters like Shang-Chi, I'm very interested in hearing more about and seeing more about. Not as familiar with him, just like I wasn't really that familiar with Captain Marvel, and even Thor in the like back in the day. I wasn't the most familiar with Thor from the comics. I don't know why I just never delved into him. So I really do like being introduced to new characters in all of these movies. Black Panther 2 is probably the one that I am most excited about. I love Black Panther. I love the cast. I thought it was just a fantastic movie. And now branching outside of Wakanda a little bit, and if they are going the Atlantis route with Namor, which was teased in Endgame, I'm pretty pumped for that. So I think the other thing that we have to remember is that we are getting Disney Plus shows.
Yeah, it's huge.
They're going to be interacting and winding and weaving in with these. So I think a lot of characters that we haven't seen in a long time are going to make their way back into the MCU via those movies or those shows. Yep. And I do think that it's also going to change how we view these phases moving forward. It really opens up the world more. So I'm pumped for it. It is weird that we haven't had one in a while.
Yeah, the withdrawals.
Yeah, but hey, it's maybe what's absence makes the heart grow fonder. Is that what it is?
Yes. Yep. I hear you, man. And Davey, same for you, man. Just, kind of piggybacking off what Joe said, the TV shows are going to be critical. I mean, we just heard the other day, which I'm pretty sure we're all going to be talking about on our live shows this week. But, Matt Reeves, Batman, they're going to have a procedural show with Batman and kind of the Gotham and how that's going to kind of build the stages for the Batman movie. So I'm a TV guy, as you all may or may not know. So I love hearing about TV stuff. And I think you can build more characters for a 6-hour, 7-hour show versus a 2-hour film. And you get the supporting characters like, Joe was just mentioning. So just curious, tying in a TV route and it's still the movies. What's your excitement level, David, for Phase 4?
I'm excited for Phase 4. I mean, like you said, we are going to be talking Batman tomorrow on our weekly wrap up. They are milking Batman, aren't they? They're just for everything that he's worth. Which is fine. I'm totally fine with it. I mean, it's such it's a world you can really explore. I mean, and like you said, I mean, the best way in like a TV series format, I think, probably more now than ever with all the streaming. But yeah, as far as the schedule goes, I mean, we had talked about it in the past. Black Widow, too little, too late, or whatever. And that I could have saw that about 5 years ago. But I do like the whole Florence Pugh pass off. I think she's someone that's on the rise, or if not already, definitely. The hot plate is there for her. She's. Sure. They always say, if you get offered an MCU movie, you have made it, right? I mean, like you're definitely in the graces of the majority now. So Eternals, I mean, we also talked about on our watch along, I mean, our weekly wrap ups at the representation. So we get a lot of representation in Eternals, Shang-Chi, obviously, Black Panther 2. Black Panther is like one of my favorite MCU movies of all time. I'm really interested to see what they do with Captain Marvel because Captain Marvel 2, because the hot take, I actually like Captain Marvel. A lot of people didn't.
but it could have been a lot better. It was probably like a 7 out of 10 for me. I just want to see where they explore, because I think Captain Marvel is like the Superman of the MCU. So I mean, with that, you got to explore a little more. Get a good director behind it, and we'll see what's going on. But Thor: Love and Thunder, I mean, you got Taika Waititi back in, and Christian Bale on there, and you know, MCU movies are always stacked with good co-stars. So I'm not worried about any of these releases whatsoever. But I am kind of. It's a little mystery with Shang-Chi and possibly Doctor Strange, because I think people, I mean, they are two wild cards. I love Doctor Strange, but I don't know how people that don't know about Doctor Strange will take the sequel. You know what I mean? As well, even with Eternals too. It's like one of those things where it's like you're not really going to see the Avengers, but kind of. So it's like, I don't know. Like we're gonna see what's gonna happen in the next couple of years. But I'm hopeful for MCU.
Yeah, it's again, you guys said it really perfectly. It's a bright future. Black Widow, Florence Pugh, Taskmaster. I think it's going to be setting up Thunderbolts and Zemo and Abomination and all those characters that we might have forgot about. Justin Hammer. I think that's a great way to kind of set up a team there. Eternals. You know, you guys mentioned Richard Madden, Joe. I love Richard Madden. I think he's going to be the next Bond. I think you agree with that as well.
Yep.
But can't forget about my boy, for my Game of Thrones fans, Kit Harington is finally getting a vehicle to maybe translate from small screen to the big screen, which I think Emilia Clarke has not done quite yet. So I'm hoping that works out better for Kit Harington. And again, you guys mentioned Angelina Jolie. I mean, she's been kind of in the background for a little bit, but I think of the movie with her and James McAvoy, Wanted, and I think of Salt, and I mean, she's a fantastic, I would maybe love Charlize Theron in that role, but we'll see what her franchise is with the old guard. But Eternals looks great. Shang-Chi, I'm hearing that it's going to be like Mortal Kombat for the MCU, so another vehicle to bring in some. I can't think. Baron Drop, I think, was Captain America's villain in Winter Soldier. I can see him making an appearance because he has karate skills. So I think we're going to get a lot of characters that we might haven't seen in a while or see for the first time in that film. And Awkwafina's in that movie. I love her as an actress. And Doctor Strange for me is just super exciting. Sam Raimi, again, Tobey Maguire maybe making an appearance, some other characters in the multiverse, and I think Scarlet Witch is going to really show why she's the most powerful character in the MCU, in my opinion. Thor, Love and Thunder, Beta Ray Bill maybe as Christian Bale, and Lady Jane or Lady Thor. I'm just excited to see what they do there, and Black Panther, like you guys said, with Namor and maybe Storm making an appearance, and a lot of bright stuff. And then again, I'm a big TV guy, so I'm excited to see what these TV shows have to offer as well. So future is looking bright, no doubt, but I'm hoping that we get these movies. Yeah, go ahead.
Just one question for everyone. Everyone said Black Widow is a bit too late, but would you guys be as interested in the movie before Infinity War and Endgame? Because for me, the character of Black Widow really got stronger on those two movies. On the first Avengers and Ultron. On Ultron, I liked her a little bit more, but I think she really got on Infinity War and Endgame. I think she became a lot more interesting for me. And I think the movie coming now, at least I'm more excited to see, because I care more about that character. Same goes for Hawkeye. If it wasn't this last Endgame, I probably wouldn't want to see a TV show about him, because I didn't really care. So, but after Endgame, he really became one of my characters that I want to know more. So I think probably the timing is not an accident, because they kind of set her up for people to really care with the sacrifice she did in Endgame. And I think they probably had all this plan to the dot, and it wasn't an accident that it was like, oh, people want a Black Widow movie, we're gonna have to do it. So I just wanted to know if you guys think you'd be interested 4 years ago to see a movie of Black Widow.
Well, the devil's advocate there for me is that maybe she would have been more interesting if she had her own movie where they established her as something other than a background character or a supporting character. That's how she was introduced in Iron Man 2, and that's how she carried through all the way to the end. And, you look at all the Avengers who had their individual movies, and she and Hawkeye were the only two that didn't. And unless I'm missing someone, but, she should have had her own movie way back when. People have been calling for it for a long time.
Yeah.
You can talk about representation and whatever, but you look at representation not really becoming a focus of Marvel until probably the last 6 6 Marvel movies. If I'm trying to remember when Black Panther came out,
2018, yeah,
but in the mix, meaning like in the mix,
like 6 films, like the
Civil
last
War.
6 films. So yeah, it was. But I mean, you make a great point too, Joe, regarding if you think about the MCU and their casting. Robert Downey Jr. kind of was in the the dumps for a while. Chris Evans coming off of Fantastic Four. Like Scarlett Johansson was the biggest name that they pulled prior to maybe I don't even know who's the biggest superstar prior to her. Like I think she's the biggest star that they've cast. Like she was already established. So you would think that they would probably be running to get her a film first because she can market. I can't think of that movie Lucky. Like she wrote $500 million on a film that I don't think anyone else would have got that money but Scarlett Johansson. So it is weird that they're waiting so long to give their biggest movie star a film, which is very interesting.
But there's a very real reason for that. And this is a whole other conversation, but it gets into Disney in of itself. But it's, female-led films, action films are not something that Disney is big on. They don't sell the toys, and that's where Disney makes the money. It's unfortunate, but that's where it is. And you didn't get to see that until really Star Wars really started, with Daisy Ridley pushing that direction. Incorrect.
Did we get the Black Widow announcement prior Captain Marvel making $1 billion, or was it already in the works? Because I'm just, again, maybe Captain Marvel's $1 billion. Go ahead, give her that film. Let's already announce. I can't remember the timeline around that for Black Widow's movie being announced.
I can't remember either, but I would imagine it was already in the works.
Yeah, Kevin Feige. Yeah,
I think the Black Widow thing can go two ways. Which with Marvel, it usually only goes one way, where it's a success. But the problem is now that with the push, it's now we've waited so long, and this is the movie that we get at the end of the wait. So it's like after all this, we waited just to get this movie, or it could be like we've been waiting so long, we'll take anything. So it's like it will make money, but will it be like this is not February money? Like this is not a like this could have been kind of like if it came on Disney Plus, would we be surprised if this is gonna be our first Disney Plus movie release, not a show? We're just gonna we would be like, okay, cool, that makes sense. But now it's like their first blockbuster after the coronavirus, and then I would imagine people are going to be like, we waited for this, even though it's good. You know what I mean? So it's like it could go a weird way.
Yeah. Well, I was
gonna say I wanted to piggyback off of something that Joe just said. I mean, you and I have both spoken about. I don't know if it's the agenda of not having a female-led movie. It could possibly be. I don't work at the studios, but it's like for me personally, I look at her and Hawkeye as characters that don't have any superpowers, so I don't find them the most interesting. So that's why I don't put them in the forefront. That's why I was always rooting for seeing a Scarlet Witch solo movie before I wanted to see a Black Widow movie, because I thought she was awesome. And when we first got her introduction with her and her brother, and it's like I find the fascination with superpowers a little more, and that's why I always loved Superman over Batman, because it was like a money.
Point. Yeah.
So, but that's just me personally. I don't know how obviously the world works in different ways when it comes to entertainment and stuff like that. Yeah. So it just comes back down to the agenda of whatever they were pushing for, Yeah,
and I agree, because like we have movies like Atomic Blonde and stuff like Soul, so we kind of like already saw a little bit what a Black Widow with no powers could be. So that's why I'm saying that after Endgame, I am now more curious to know, because I got it like invested in the character. Yeah. But if they did a movie with Thor, I got that part of the character, I was probably not as excited. That's what I was saying. Like, I understand it's kind of the chicken and the egg. If they did the movie before, maybe I was more invested. But the thing is, like we talked about this before, like doing a good movie is not sometimes the same as doing a good box office. Like I loved Ad Astra last year. It was an original movie. It was cool. He had Brad Pitt on it. It made no money. Like it just made no money. And that's the thing. Even if you put Scarlett Johansson in the front and you make a Black Widow movie, if there's not something that people already invested on it, or something cool like, oh, she has superpowers to do this and that, is sometimes a harder sell. Because even movies like Salt and Atomic Blonde, they didn't make a lot of money in the box office. So that's why I was asking, after seeing Endgame, I think a lot more people now are like, oh my God, I really want to see the person that saved the Avengers in a way. Yeah. So it's kind of like, I don't know if the timing was planned or not, but I think the timing is going to be great. And I think having the corona that we're not seeing any Marvel movies, it's gonna be everyone's gonna go to it because they like just want to see anything that has the Marvel logo on it.
Sure.
So I think it might be the perfect timing for that movie.
Yeah, we'll
That's a really
see it.
interesting
I mean,
point,
another thing to keep in mind is the month before that, 2 weeks prior to that, Wonder Woman 84 will be out in theaters. So I just wonder if it's going to be eating each other's pockets, demographically speaking and financially speaking. So we'll see if it's going to Wonder Woman 84 is just going to propel and just carry on to Black Widow. Again, that's assuming that Wonder Woman comes out in October.
That's what I was going to say, because there's rumors already that it's going to be delayed.
Which I wouldn't be surprised at this point. So.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to be the first one. I think that's the thing. No one wants to be the first.
Nolan does. I say Nolan now.
Yeah, Nolan really does.
My movie out. Yeah. I'll give you guys all tinted mask. I don't know. I was just like, I don't know. He's really going in for it, and we'll see. But wrapping this up, guys, this is the last little thing I want to post to the panel, and then we'll call it night. 3.5 hours, guys. I really appreciate your time. I love. Obviously geeking out with you guys, so we definitely got to do this again. But Jay has mentioned it before a little bit on Kraven. We got the Sinister Six kind of building its legs with Scorpion in the background. Prowler, we'll see what's going on with him. Shocker could still be someone else, can pick up the mantle for Shocker. So starting with Chris, man, November 3rd, if things still play up, I think Tom Holland's shooting Uncharted today. I think they're back on set for that, so hopefully they can align everything for scheduling for Spider-Man 3. But who are you wanting to see, man? We brought up Kraven, which I think is a logical choice, but so he's being hunted. That would be perfect to have someone hunt him if they're looking for him on a run. But what are you expecting for Spider-Man 3, and what's your title? Spider-Man Home, Run Away from Home, Home Alone? Like where are we going with this next Spider-Man?
That's a lot of pressure. I gotta think about that. But I like what Jay said with having the Vulture being someone you would have thought, why would they do that? And then having it on screen and being, very accepting of it. So I do like, the Kraven talk track, but I'm a traditionalist. So like, I want to see the Venom. I want to see the crossover. I want to see Carnage. I want to see Scorpion. Like that's what we got in Spider-Man 3, the original. So I'm like, if this is the new 3, like let's fix the Venom. And I know we've got the Venom Sony, we've got that, but if it's a perfect world and I can bring my guy in, I would bring in Venom, I'd bring in Carnage, and just print money at that point at the box office, no matter what.
Very true.
I just trust them. So I don't know. It would be like with that, like then if the symbiote is over Tom, so then it's like Spider-Man 3, like Far From Me. I don't like. It's like
Far From Me.
It's like it's not me. I'm not me anymore. So it's like something along those lines. I think would be crazy.
I love it, man. Leo, again, we talked a little bit about Kraven, maybe, but there is a villain that we've talked about quite a few times in this panel, and that's Norman Osborn. The Green Goblin could make an appearance. Everyone's talking about who bought this Tony Stark's building. I mean, we've seen multiple villains in Homecoming. There was like 3 or 4 villains. Honestly, there was like 4 villains in that film. I think a lot of people forget that because Marvel did such a great job of introducing those villains, but Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn, Kraven the Hunter. I mean, Spider-Man 3 can be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say Green Goblin because Chris took Venom, but I'm really trying to see all that we've congregated out of Sony thus far, out of the MCU thus far in terms of Spider-Man villains. I'm trying to see them all congregate, even if it means we do introduce 1 or 2 heads this time. Yeah, I would love to see it congregate in a Spider-Man No Place Like Home type of movie and just kind of bring it all back to Brooklyn, but the battle for his life, and this is a battle without Tony Stark, without the Avengers, or as they were, and I want this to be a solo Spider-Man movie. I want this to be really follow Peter and really just focus on his growth or his story as Spider-Man. And of course he's going to be on the run. I'm definitely thinking they're going to bring in Kraven the Hunter, but I would love if he kind of started off and then Adrian Toomes shows up and wants to work with him. So I'm really hoping we get some kind of Sinister Six, or if we do get another villain, we get even further build up to that. And then, Tom Holland on the run.
It's shaping up to be a great film. If he's going against all those, I know Spider-Man can do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sony and Marvel have some other superhero in the works. A lot of people, I know this has been debunked, but going to YOLO, Charlie Cox, Daredevil, helping
Oh,
Spider-Man go
man.
against Sinister Six characters. I mean, that would, you talk about box office. I don't know if they can make it work, but I think Spider-Man's going to need some help in Spider-Man 3.
I think there's going to be a lot of that. I think first, I think there's going to be Craven, because like if you guys read the comic book, there's a comic book called Craven's Last Hunt, and
Very dark.
yeah, and what happens there kind of is Craven gets Spider-Man, puts him in a coffin, and then he takes his place as being this like Spider-Man that kills like people and stuff. And then in the end, like people think that he was Spider-Man all along. So I think that can be a way of getting Spider-Man his secret identity again, because you can have Craven being like killed with the Spider-Man suit, and then like everybody goes, oh, it's not Peter Parker, it's this guy. So that could be a way, and I think that's going to be. But I think there's going to be a lot of like Spider-Man crossing. I think Spider-Man is going to cross with Doctor Strange. He's going to cross with a lot of characters. It's kind of going to be a way to connect all these stories together. So like with Doctor Strange, with Daredevil, I think Daredevil is going to be there as like a way of, because he's a lawyer, kind of a way of helping him out from these problems. But there's going to be a lot of like connections and setting up for the future, because I think it's too soon for Venom. And like I think Venom 2 is going to set up Carnage, and then you're going to get maximum Carnage on Venom 3 probably, and then you have Spider-Man there. So I think it's all setting up to the Sinister Six with Morbius, with the Prowler, like all these guys. And Harry Osborn is going to be kind of like a Thanos figure. He's going to be the one that you just see in the shadows. There's someone putting all these guys together. There's someone giving them the tech, giving them the money, giving all this. And then more along in the end, I think they're going to play the long game. That's what Marvel does well. Sony doesn't. Sony wants to like put everything at once. But I think Marvel is going to explain, look, we have this guy like that's not aging. He's going to play a kid for ages. We can make a lot more movies, and the more movies we make, the more money we're going to make. So I think it's going to be a long game with setting up a lot of things here. But I think Craven has to be in this movie. It's the only one that makes perfect logic for what they set up and what they need to do.
Yeah, I think, and Craven, I hope they don't, again, we're going to, I don't think we talked about Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't think he's dead. And I would hate to do a one-off with Craven. I would love to see Craven make an appearance in a Black Panther film too, and maybe have some Wakanda heritage or something in Wakanda, but there's so much potentiality with that. But Joe, same question, man. Spider-Man 3, kind of your pitch, your hopes. Again, we still have other Avengers. Ant-Man can make an appearance. Maybe Falcon and Winter Soldier can help him out again. Or there is another lawyer. I know, Joe, you're a lawyer. There's another lawyer out there, She-Hulk. I mean, I know she's going to have her show, but I mean, this would be a great introduction to her, maybe in Spider-Man too.
Yeah, it could be. I think what we're going to end up seeing, though, and this is going to disagree with YOLO a little bit, I do think we're going to see Venom sooner rather than later. And this actually goes back to something that YOLO mentioned earlier regarding Flash Thompson. And I think that he's a connection to all this. The reason I say that is he keeps referencing his mother in this movie, specifically in two instances. One is that he is, when he's on the bus and the text messages or whatever, one of the text messages says, I haven't heard from your father. And then of course at the end. So that's a subplot that's in there for a reason. I'm wondering if that's connected to Raz Ahmed's character in Venom, where like his mother, because clearly they have money, right? They have someone coming to pick him up and all that. So I'm wondering if maybe she works with Raz Ahmed's character or whatever, because in the comics, Flash Thompson does become anti-Venom. And so that could be a way to introduce the symbiote into the Spider-Man Marvel world. And
I like that, Joe.
That's my random thought. But, and the only reason I say that I think that's going to happen sooner rather than later is because Sony is doing their own thing with this now ever since that last battle, and Sony moves fast.
Their acronym there, SPCMC. Yes,
Yeah.
we'll see what goes on with that.
Yeah.
But, sorry to cut you. Go ahead, Joe.
No, they want to establish stuff quicker than I think we want to give them. We want to hope that they do. So while I hope that what Yolo said is the way that they go with things, I do think they're going to try to rush things a little faster. I don't know if we're even going to get Kraven in Spider-Man yet, or if we're going to get a standalone movie. There's been rumors of that for a while. And I think there is a untitled movie that has yet to be announced, but maybe that was the one they were talking about with Spider-Woman or whatever,
Madam Web and all that stuff. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think they have a lot of options, which is kind of nice to see. They've laid a lot of groundwork, but I do think we're going to see Venom moved in here sooner rather than later.
I mean, that's Chris said that's printing money right there. The two Toms. I mean, that will be a huge box office success, I think. But yeah, David, man. I mean, we all this conversation about Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn, Kraven. I mean, what would you like to see? Would you like to maybe see it be maybe not as grandiose as we're pitching it and more grounded? He's on a run. It's just a simple story, or do you like these kind of craziness that could have occurred next fall?
No, let's get crazier, man. I mean, that's the only way you're going to get people in theaters, right? Especially after not seeing you for a while. So first off, I got to go back to that Sony acronym. That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. That does not roll off the tongue whatsoever, right?
No.
Oh, that is like just the acronym SPUMC is like, ugh.
Don't read it.
Yeah, but going back to some of the previous characters that we saw in the movies, like Shocker by Bokeem Woodbine, or like even there was talks earlier this year, I think, of Michael Mando from where the Breaking Bad and like Better Call Saul as Scorpion. Like I would love to see some of those characters that were already kind of like introduced that we kind of know a little bit thrown in there. But yeah, what Joe said, I think ultimately we are going to see that merging of Venom or Carnage or somehow incorporated in Spider. I think that's the logical next big step. You know what I'm saying? Like especially since Avengers are done for the most part, like we just need to get bigger. So I think they're going to start incorporating those two. Even though Venom, wasn't accepted by a lot of people. I really liked the Tom Hardy Venom movie for what it was. I mean, it had a lot of its flaws, but I enjoyed it. It was a bit goofy, but I think it can slide into the Spider, whatever you want to call that, Spider Universe, Sony, whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna call it Spunk, but I think it slide in there. No pun intended. Just like pretty easy. So yeah, I think we're going with probably Venom or Carnage somewhere in the next Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, they should just Sony Extended Universe SEU could have been a lot better than what they came up with. But nevertheless, I think Madam Web, if this all plays out right, I think that's again kind of another multiverse situation within Spider-Man as she kind of connects the different dimensions, and that can maybe connect Venom's world, because again, it didn't seem like his world knew anything about the Avengers, knew anything about Spider-Man as a whole. So that could be a way of maybe tying those tissues together. But I mean, the possibilities are out there, and whoever they do, I think Jason Momoa would have been a great casting for Kraven, but I think Gerard Butler could be a great Kraven as well. I mean, the possibilities are definitely endless when it comes to Kraven and the future of Spider-Man and the future of the MCU. It's a lot of fun stuff, guys. So, wow, 3 hours and 44 minutes. I feel like this is
almost
like
four, man. Kevin
Smith. I don't know if you guys watch his show, but we got geeky, due to Leo, geeky nerds, man. We talk a lot of geeky stuff, man. So I'm glad you guys were able to break Spider-Man Far From Home down with me, talk about his future, talk about our favorite characters, and kind of sum up with the Spider-Man future. So I've had a blast, guys. I can't thank you enough for joining me tonight. Everyone in the chat, whether it be super chats, throwing in some great questions, throwing in some great theories. Someone had mentioned earlier, I didn't want to miss that out. They had mentioned they were talking about Notice the Skrull. So everyone asks about the Avengers, and he's saying that he thinks that Fury was Endgame. So that was Fury's situation that we talked a little bit about earlier, talking about Tobey Maguire and Garfield. And I think someone else brought up another good point about the Eternals. I think we will get a market Eternals with a young Thanos so people can go and watch it. I think Deviants and Eternals and Thanos, there's a lot of connective tissue there. So would not be surprised if we see a young Josh Brolin voicing Thanos. But a lot of geeky stuff, a lot of theories, a lot of fun stuff. I think that just shows, again, the beauty of the MCU and what they've done. And the future's looking bright. Like I said, it's a bright future. So wrapping it up, roundtable style, Chris from Tate's Take, man. Again, I thank you for coming on tonight, my friend. We definitely gonna get you back on. Let the people know where they can find you and what's something we can expect on your channel here soon.
Yeah, again, I'll keep it brief, and I really want to thank you for facilitating this. Super organized, super well run, really awesome job. Again, I'm Chris Tate from Tate's Take, new to the YouTube game, but I'm dropping videos every week, usually on Tuesdays, and I got a video coming on Tuesdays. I'm doing the review of the Hulu movie Palm Springs, so look out for that this Tuesday in the afternoon. But I appreciate you letting me on here and you know, joining you guys. You guys are all came with great opinions and great additions, so it's been real.
No doubt, man. We'll definitely be seeing you again in the future, man. And again, continue to build that channel because you were doing a fantastic job. Again, your sense of humor is fantastic, and your take on films is just as good. So definitely a bright future for you, my friend. And thank you again for coming on tonight. Big J on YOLO Movie Reviews. Again, big fan of yours, man. So glad you could make it tonight. And again, I know it's like probably 4 a.m. where you're at, so I appreciate you spending
5 in the morning almost.
5 in the morning, man. I appreciate the dedication, my friend. But again, man, tell the people what can we expect from your channel next.
And I have to do a family barbecue tomorrow.
Oh, nice. Nice. Falling asleep on the grill. But, at the moment we just like Instagram. That's where we're focusing at the moment. We have a lot of stuff going on, and with this pandemic, little J is more busy than ever, like with homeschool. So we're focusing on Instagram. We have posts every day. Like I said, we do reviews on my side, reviews on little J. Little J is like 15, but she's now like focusing on watching a lot of like the cult movies that we all saw and we all talk about. She's watching it for first time, so you can see her first experience with some big masterpieces. Also reviewing the movies that are coming out. We did The Old Guard. We're doing Palm Springs. Also doing some lists. We're doing a countdown on best performances on male actors now, and then we'll do also female actors, actresses. So we're doing a lot of stuff on Instagram, and we're also focusing on doing a big project for when we reach 1,000 posts that we're going to announce soon. So just keep an eye and just get with us and talk with the community. We're doing some community events with our other page that's Movie Lovers Movie Club. So a lot of stuff with the community and with our page that we love everyone that can just to follow us. No doubt, man. Again, those events are so incredible. Hearing different people's takes on the same films is always great. And again, it's all about building community. So Big J, salute to you, my friend. I love your account and what you've been doing on the social medias, man. So Leo, Geeky Goods, man. Again, I'm so glad I was able to get you on tonight, my friend. I've been a fan of yours for a while and looking forward to more of your lives and more of your takes on films and movies. But yeah, man, where can the people find you and what can we expect from you next, my friend?
Yeah, guys, come on over to Geekly Goods, youtube.com/Geekly Goods. I've been on YouTube for probably almost 2 years now. So into 2018 is when I started, and I do all kinds of different avenues from movie reviews, anime, gaming, TV shows. Coming up, I did The Old Guard, watch that, and Palm Springs. So those reviews are on the way as well. And then we'll have another stream Thursday reacting to the week's best trailers with Stephanie from over at Minute Movie Pop. But thank you guys so much for having me out here again. Thanks for having me, Elliot. It was an absolute fun time talking with you guys. All things Spider-Man, my favorite superhero. So as soon as I saw this announcement, I was like, yo, I got to get on that. And it's been a pleasure talking with you guys and sharing these great opinions about superhero movies. It's been fun geeking out with you, Elliot. This is the second time we've collabed, and this time in a less serious light. So it's been really cool getting to geek out with you, man, and getting to talk all things Spider-Man with you guys. But come on over to Geekly Goods, guys. Check us out. We're over at youtube.com/Geekly Goods, and we're on Instagram at Geekly Goods as well.
No doubt, man. Love his content, love his energy, love his take. So definitely show him some support. All the links to everyone is in the description below. So, David, we saw each other yesterday, we saw each other today, and we'll be seeing each other tomorrow, my friend. But
spending a lot of time together, man.
Yes, sir. Tell the people where they can find you, man, and what can we expect the next Blu-ray hunting shopping from you, my friend.
Who knows? Let's hope I don't test positive for COVID, or else I'm gonna have to stay home, man. I'll just say that. But I am hoping, guys, you can catch me soon on my page. Everything is down below, by the way, link in the description. It's always Flix Talk or Flix Talk Podcast on Twitter if you guys are on Twitter. And tomorrow, Elliot and I, Elliot Movie Files, we do drop a weekly wrap up of just kind of like the best and biggest in TV and movie news, whether it's streaming in your homes or just streaming on your cable, whatever it is. We're talking big stories, and that is every Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. On Instagram, I do post like daily just news, the biggest stories once again, and then like I said, on Sundays we go over that. But I usually do Blu-ray hunting videos, if I can get out. I starting to do a lot of watch-alongs now, guys, as well as trailer reactions. Movie reviews I have coming up are The Old Guard, as well as I'm going to try to catch Palm Springs tonight, and hopefully I can edit those by tomorrow. I'm probably after this going to get some food and then just pass out and watch Unsolved Mysteries or something like that. So we'll see how it goes, but there is a lot coming up this weekend, guys, and the following week. So yeah, look forward to that.
No doubt. Looking forward to tomorrow's conversation, man. But we got, last but certainly not least, Joe. Again, you've been doing an awesome job, man, at the lives. The quizzo that you've been doing on your channel, so fantastic. The community you're building is incredible, man. So again, where can the people find you, and where can we expect to see Joe at Guy at the Movie next?
Definitely. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on, especially this group. It was an awesome group to have on. Good conversation. And, it's always fun to watch a movie that I think we all kind of enjoy and able to go from there. So good time tonight. Moving forward, I have so much going on Instagram with daily movie reviews and stuff like that. But the biggest things that I'll just put out there right now is we have I have the podcast that is every Wednesday morning, released at 7 a.m. in the morning on all platforms. And that is movie news. It is guests. It's random conversations about what's kind of on our minds regarding what we watched recently. And that is recorded every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube with a live show. And then the next quizzo, which has just been a lot of fun. You jump on Instagram. I'm sorry, on YouTube. It's very easy. It takes about an hour. There's 4 rounds. We did Marvel Quizzo last week, and that's happening every 2 weeks on Wednesday evenings at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And the next one is on July 22nd, and it is Star Wars edition. So that should get pretty ugly. But that'll be fun. So pop on there. And yeah, just Guy at the Movies on Instagram, and guyatthemovies.com will take you to everywhere you need to go to figure out what the hell I'm doing with my days.
No doubt. And I saw your announcement on the IGTV Live. You got a co-host on your channel now, so you can have the back and forth, some banter with your co-host, which would be great.
Yes, sir. So we were adding, I was having guests for a couple of weeks, and we had really good back and forth, really good chemistry. So Sean from Math Teacher Movies is going to be popping on for the weekly chat, and we'll go from there. Somehow this past week we got on the Hamilton butthole cut. I don't know how the hell we started playing around with that, but
nice.
Yeah.
I still gotta watch Hamilton because everyone's been raving about it, and I gotta check it out. I gotta watch it. Want to sit down and watch it. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But yeah, guys, wrapping this up as far as things on Movie Files. Again, latest movie news or reviews for Old Guard. What do we got? Palm Springs already on the channel, and then tomorrow Greyhound, and then other things. Whatever's coming out next week, you can expect a review. I have an early screener for Cursed on Netflix and Umbrella Academy 2, so I'm going to be watching those here soon, and hopefully getting a review out for those when the embargo lifts. So things to look forward to, and then my next watch along, which actually will include Joe, is for Inception. The 10-year anniversary is coming up this week, and I know, Joe, you just watched it the other night from our friends at Talking TV Podcast. So hopefully you don't get too Inception out and have dreams upon dreams upon dreams about watching this movie so many times in a row. But that is the next watch along, and then August. I'm still trying to think of some movies to watch, and hopefully I can have some of you guys on those panels to watch those movies next month. So those are things to expect. Again, Chris, Big J, Leo, David, and Joe, thank you so much for a 4-hour stream, which I have absolutely loved, and to appreciate you guys' time. I hope you guys are staying safe out there. Thank you for everyone that tuned in, and we'll all see you pretty soon. You guys take care.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.